globalize the intifada if it makes you uncomfortable. In that moment, you did not condemn the phrase. Now, just so folks understand, it's a phrase that many people hear as a call to violence against Jews. There's been a lot of attention on this issue, so I want to give you an opportunity to respond here and now. Do you condemn that phrase, globalize the intifada?
That's not language that I use. The language that I use and the language that I will continue to use to lead the city is that which speaks clearly to my intent, which is an intent grounded in a belief in universal human rights. And ultimately, that's what is the foundation of so much of my politics, the belief that freedom and justice and safety are things that, to have meaning, have to be applied to all people, and that includes Israelis and Palestinians as well.
But do you actually condemn it? I think that's the question and the outstanding issue that a number of people, both of the Jewish faith and beyond, have. Do you condemn that phase, globalize the intifada, which a lot of people hear as a call to violence against Jews?
I've heard from many Jewish New Yorkers who have shared their concerns with me, especially in light of the horrific attacks that we saw in Washington, D.C. and in Boulder, Colorado, about this moment of anti-Semitism in our country and in our city. And I've heard those fears and I've had those conversations, and ultimately they are part and parcel of why, in my campaign, I've put forward a commitment to increase funding for anti-hate crime programming by 800%. I don't believe that the role of the mayor is to police speech in the manner, especially of that of Donald Trump, who has put one New Yorker in jail who's just returned to his family, Mahmoud Khalil, for that very supposed crime of speech. Ultimately, what I think I need to show is the ability to not only talk about something, but to tackle it and to make clear that there's no room for anti-Semitism in the city. We have to root out that bigotry, and ultimately we do that through the actions, and that is the mayor I will be, one that protects Jewish New Yorkers and lives up to that commitment through the work that I do.
Quickly, for the people who care about the language and who feel really concerned by that phrase, why not just condemn it?
My concern is to start to walk down the line of language and making clear what language I believe is permissible or impermissible takes me into a place similar to that of the president, who is looking to do those very kinds of things, putting people in jail for writing an op-ed, putting them in jail for protesting. Ultimately, it's not language that I use, it's language I understand there are concerns about, and what I will do is showcase my vision for the city through my words and my actions.
Let me ask you broadly.
Damn. He dodged that like crazy. They're good. These are good politician answers, though. Is this edited? Oh, shit.
Thank you, Caroline. Does President Trump want Zoran Mamdani deported?
I haven't heard him say that. I haven't heard him call for that.
Just to be clear, there's only one answer to that question, and the answer is it's inappropriate to speculate on whether or not some other political figure should be deported. If people are reported for crimes, we investigate them. If we have reason to believe that somebody is here illegally, then we investigate that, but we are definitely not in the business of trying to investigate other political figures because we're not happy with the outcome of some election. That's the only acceptable answer to that question, which I'm sure that's exactly what she's about to say, because Republicans are so against the weaponization of the criminal justice system and government, right?
But certainly he does not want this individual to be elected. I was just speaking to him about it and his radical policies that will completely crush New York City, which is obviously a city that the president holds near and dear to his heart.
There's this Congressman, Andy Ogles. He wants the Attorney General Bondi to explore denaturalization proceedings because he thinks Mamdani could have misrepresented or concealed material support for terrorism based on rap lyrics he wrote in 2017. Does President Trump think this is a worthwhile use of the Attorney General's time?
Well, I'll let the president speak to that. I have not seen those claims, but surely if they are true, it's something that should be investigated.
And
his rap lyrics from 2017 should be investigated?
Of their face. Today I will once more be a prophet. The national Jewish...
This guy, bro. Get me out of here.
Free!
Based. What is this? It's the meme. If the Democrats can't convince a handful of senators to vote against a bill that will tragically hurt most of their constituents, then there is a problem with our Democratic leadership. How many Democrats voted for the big, beautiful bill in the Senate? I thought can't Republicans literally lose 3 votes and still pass this? Oh, 0. Okay. It's not their fault the other side is in a cult. Stop blaming Dems for the GOP. Neera, you are as out of touch with the middle America as you are with the... Oh. It already passed. No, I think it did for the Senate. Doesn't it go back to the House for, like, reconciliation or some bullshit? Oh, the Senate is still debating? it's not back there. Jesus. Jesus. Seeing all the pizza memes today and being like, what the fuck, guys, chill, it can't have been that bad. And then I just watched the actual debate. I get it now. This was Mandani's explanation of the city-owned grocery stores.
An example, when we talk about grocery stores, I've put forward a proposal for a pilot of one grocery store in each borough. These are 5 grocery stores that would cost $60 million in a city budget of more than $113 billion. And ultimately, the reason that we are so excited by them is...
God damn. Is that the annual budget of New York City? Is $113 billion? Jesus.
We've seen that they've worked in Kansas. We've seen that when a feasibility study was done in Chicago, it was shown to be something that was not only feasible, but pressing and urgent in an urban setting. And finally, it cost less than half of what the city's already set to spend on subsidizing corporate supermarkets without any guarantee of cheaper prices, any guarantee of collective bargaining agreements, or that they accept SNAP or WIC.
Well, you
I'll give you an example.
All we can do is wait and see how it turns out, right? A Hassan moderator advocated for defacing Kobe's memorial with his daughter. Wait, do we hate Kobe now? Why do we hate Kobe? If you're protesting in LA today, please stop by the Kobe and Gigi mural and make sure it's still ruined. Oh, rapist? Is that, do people still, I don't remember if we believe that or not. Was that with the girl who went up to his room and then who was invited up to his room at night and then came out and said they had sex? And she also maybe banged a few other dudes. And not to get rid of the believe all women hashtag, but Jesus Christ. A tenured MIT professor accused me of having a Zionist mind infection. I'm too lazy. My conservative friends were coming over this. I told him he's self-sucking basic job duties. What is this? Over the past several weeks, I've spent a lot of time listening to members of the community, local leaders, and stakeholders from across the country. While there's been a tremendous amount of misinformation, in some cases outright lies about my bill, many people brought forward sincere concerns because of the strict constraints of the budget reconciliation process. I was unable to secure clear, enforceable safeguards to guarantee that these lands would be sold only to American families, not to China, not to black women. For that reason, I made a decision to withdraw the foreign or the federal land sales provision from the bill. I continue. Okay. Gee, what the fuck? Okay. Huh. A lot of young people voted for the Mamdani guy. I don't know if the youth turnout was higher or not. I don't know if that's what that said, but...
So when you're talking about the insurrection on January 6th...
No one cares, little bro. D-Man is wrong about this. Having kids is awesome when you actually like the person you have them with and you have them after you've sown your wild oats. It's also probably not for everyone. Having them with someone you are having physical fights with probably isn't very pleasant. Seeing my wife holding our kids is more fulfilling than anything I could imagine, but I totally got with someone who was forced into that position by a 19-year-old girl who was anti-Bush with hate. What the fuck? Based. Rip. Wait, oh shit, hold on. We might have a whole bait thread. Point of correction, does it was forced into by an I don't think it was forced into anything, but okay. Well, damn, what an idiot. Okay. I'll just say my dad has a similar style, and I have very little to do with him as an adult. Okay. All right, yeah. Oh, this guy's a troll, 100%. It was tagged as a shit post? Okay. I also hold our kids, LOL. I'm actually the preferred parent of our 2-year-old, which is rare for men, and I love reading his bedtime story every night and all that fun dad stuff. It's just the image of seeing the woman I love holding the kids we made together. It makes my heart warm. Okay. Kind of a schizo post. I don't think Destiny ever said that having kids is not enjoyable. He was just saying that it's a difficult, brutal struggle for some people. Knowing Destiny, he would say that the struggle can be incredibly worthwhile. Wow, cool. Good job. He more or less said that when people talk about enjoying having kids, they're lying. Don't think I've ever said anything remotely similar to that in my entire life, but okay. Rips. See you later. Ripperino. What, like, in general, at any age, it doesn't sound right. I mean, I won't be having kids personally, but it seems like it's incredibly winning for parents. To be clear, he said that regretful parents are often silent, and they wouldn't tell you even if they were regretful. I don't think he said anything strong. I'm just saying it's hard to even be regretful. Like, how do you... I don't know, there's got to be a better explanation for it, but like you can do something that is a mistake, but like something is created as a result of that, and obviously you love and care for the thing. So if you could go back in time, like if you were to ask somebody who's 20 years old right now, do you want to have a child right now? And they're like, no, I think I'd rather wait 5 years. And then you say, too bad. And then you rape them, and then they have a kid. And then you're like, do you regret having that child? It's like, well, fuck me. No, I have a kid now. I don't hate the kid. Like, what? I mean, what are you gonna like? This is what I'm saying. This question is so loaded. I'm not saying that everybody secretly hates their children or that everybody secretly like won't admit that they hate their children. I'm just saying it's a difficult question to pull on. POLL. IDR? What is IDR? Does he mean IDC? IDR, if he said it, I don't recall. Why not just say, I don't know, if he said it at the time, but when talking about it before, he said that parents gaslight themselves into enjoying having kids. Okay. Ooh, base, okay. Ooh, I even unbanned this guy. Okay. You don't even have to like your partner to like your kids. I'm happily married and my daughter is the best part of my life by far, but I have divorced friends that love their kids just as I do. They don't regret the previous one. This is probably, what am I doing in end circumstance? Based? Okay. But that's fine. I don't think everyone should or should even want to be a parent. I would wager maybe 1/4 of all parents would have had a much better life if they never had kids. Okay, based. Okay. Not sure he said that, but I will flex that I love my wife, and we're currently sitting in the backyard of my vegetable garden and watch my 19-year-old son giggle his face off. Oh, 19-month. I was going to say 19. Wait, what? It's quite fun and rewarding. Wait, what is that? What if I said people gaslight themselves into liking their kids? What was the argument here? What was the overall conversation? I don't think he ever said most people, but also it's sort of unverifiable with what he was saying today. Very few people should vocalize or would vocalize. I wish I wouldn't have had my kids, but plenty of people are okay vocalizing. I wish I would have had kids. Oh, there you go. See, this guy understood what I said. I'm sure you can be happy with kids, but being a dink. Oh, dual income, no kids is awesome. No kids, dual income, I can sleep in and nap. Me online, me and my GF can travel on an impulse. The world is our discover. Me in reality, inside playing Space Marine 2 and Dark Tide updates all weekend. Based?
Base?
Jesus, 10 to 20% of men have admitted that they hate their kids. Oh my God. That doesn't seem that high. I think men would disproportionately regret having kids in modern times because they have little choice aside from wearing a condom and abstinence. Don't you have all the choice? I mean, you can't have an abortion, but like, Jesus, that's a way to phrase that. Oh my God. My younger sister is more traditional than me and pretty much got married, so Jesus wouldn't cry when she had sex. Damn. Based. Unfortunately, parents already know this, and the DINK antinatalist crowd doesn't want to hear it because in their head, kids are just a ball and chain to them. It's part of the trend towards hedonism and self-centeredness that's gained a lot of popularity and will ultimately lead to a very unfulfilled older life for a lot of people, sadly. I'm sad. Rip. We're all crying right now. The goal of marriage and family usually gives you really good reasons to break those patterns. Wow. I'm going to put this out there, someone says before giving the bravest take ever. Destiny is a very bright and politically informed, rhetorically skilled thinker. When it comes to debating policy and even some broader ethical questions, I really find his views persuasive. When it comes to anything involving personal life, particularly relationship advice or having a family, absolutely not. I like how me saying that I think it is very difficult to have kids today because I think there's a ton of other stuff that competes for our attention and people just aren't as interested in it is something that is like empirically verifiably proven literally across the entire planet, but somehow that's a controversial take. But okay. Jesus. All right, base. All right, it's a good honeypot thread. All right. We're getting the weeds out of the garden. Having kids is the best, worst job you'll ever have. You have to help them for a long time. There are different circumstances to change your enjoyment of them. I love my kids, but some people aren't willing to take care of another person. I think the point is that having kids is held as this pinnacle. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. That was a good harvest, I think. Remind me in a year to, we have to make a list of all the shit that Trump has sold. I feel like he's sold over like 100 fucking products at this point. He sells so much shit. It's unbelievable.
Two solutions that felt that like they felt.
What is the timestamp for this?
You were, denied global entry or you were revoked global entry, and then 2 months later, cuts out the notion of outside country activities. I never said they were separate.
Oh, 24 hours ago. Wait, is Pisco still debating this?
I feel like
A video ad for the perfume.
Great Christmas present. Fragrances are here. They make a great Christmas present. I've named them Fight, Fight, Fight because they represent winning. We all want to be winning. We have to win as a nation. We want to win as a family. This fragrance is all about strength and success and confidence for men and for women. Get yourself a bottle and don't forget to grab one for your loved ones too. They'll thank you and they'll even smell good. Enjoy, have fun, keep on winning, and Merry Christmas. Fragrances.
What's the date? Wait, is this a real ad or is this a troll? Or I don't even know what I'm...
Keep on winning and Merry Christmas.
GetTrumpFragrances.com. Were these just sold a long time ago and now they're becoming popular again? Or Jesus Christ, it's so fucking expensive.
I feel like there was.
What is it?
I remember hearing like.
What's the timestamp of this?
Early in the cases of like challenging the constitutionality of something, does that
Oh,
actually
is it
matter? It feels.
right here?
Yeah.
Again, my.
Oh. Can you go back to exactly what you said regarding having kids? It sounded like some version of people were sold on having kids, and once they began to think about it and women got birth control, the value proposition being asked was exposed. No. What I said was that children were a natural thing that happened as a result of our sex drives and as a result of women having nothing else to do in life, basically, right? They didn't really work, and they didn't have access to recreational sex because they had no birth control. Women have jobs now, and women have access to birth control, so now women can choose not to have children. Now, I think that we have some things that work out in life naturally because of like baser biological impulses, but we assume that the biological impulse is tied to some effect of those baser instincts way, way, way down the line. For example, we do not have a biological drive to eat healthy food. We just have a biological drive to consume stuff. And that drive, actually, sometimes we consume stuff that's not even good for us. That's why you give people unlimited food. They can be not healthy, right? Now, imagine if the way to combat foodstuffs and people being overweight, imagine if that way to combat it was just telling everybody, like, listen, guys, ignore society, just eat what you like and just eat, like, trust me, it'll be so much more fulfilling. You just have to eat stuff and just follow your belly. And it's like, no, it's like, hold on, we have to do some severe changes because left to people's own devices in a society where we're producing food that is, like ultra processed and shit, like people are getting fat as fuck. I think that when it comes to having babies, people think that there is this strong, massive drive to have children, and it's this huge thing that will make you automatically feel like so fulfilled and so amazing and so awesome. And that's just like the default assumption. But it seems to be the case that in industrialized countries where people have other things that they can do in life and where life doesn't naturally and organically just lead you to having kids, people are making other choices. And I think that people are approaching this from the perspective of, oh, no, trust me, people really want this. We just have to like remove the roadblocks. But it's probably more that people were choosing it naturally before because of roadblocks. So people are like, oh no, it's just because kids don't have enough money these days and they can't get married early enough and we just need to like make some child tax credit available. And it's like, probably not. But I'm pretty sure since World War II, probably even earlier, tons of societies have tried to incentivize childbearing and it just doesn't seem to happen. It feels like once you unlock some set of like rights or whatever for women that they make other choices otherwise, and there's too much in life competing for family creation, so it's not happening. So that's like some fundamental thing that needs to be addressed because it's not going to get fixed otherwise. If you think that the falling birth rates are a huge problem, that's my argument. I didn't say having kids sucks. I'm just saying that it's not like this glorious, wonderful thing that everybody is automatically drawn to and would love and would do everything. If they just knew all the facts about it. It seems like it's probably a little bit more. You need a little bit more of a push than that. That's all I said. Okay.
Okay.
Let me use the restroom. We'll listen to this. One sec. Wait, use this guy's link. One sec.
Oh, Kafka Esquire. Franz Kafka. What up, Kafka? How we doing? Another lawyer. Great streamer. Can't even hear you.
Yeah, sorry. Still set up. I didn't think you'd pull me in so quickly.
Hell yeah. I love fucking chatting. Oh, wait. I've been on this the whole time. Hang on a second. We're good. We're good. What's good?
Oh, not much. Been,
They talk about other stuff for like 30 minutes, so you can skip to here. Jesus. Okay.
One thing, you and I talked, and I'm sorry to bring this up, but you and I talked a while ago about the Hassan Piker detainment thing.
Yeah,
but that was before the global entry email scandal.
Yeah, before I was completely vindicated. Yeah.
Yeah, that is how some people have described it, as you being completely vindicated. Yeah. Now let me ask you, because I know I have seen the YouTube video headlines. And I've seen the people seething in your chat, who are just like, God damn it. When you say completely vindicated, can you, like, how do you see the Gmail vindication in your mind? Because the way I remember, real quick, the way I remember us leaving it was like, you believe that it is very, like, it is not an insane or not even a difficult inference that the detainment was based off of First Amendment chilling, right?
Yep.
And my position was, I don't disagree that is a possible inference, but I think that there is a non-protectual First Amendment or security interest by the CBP that would allow them to detain him. That being said, if more evidence came out about the detainment, then I could be convinced that it was that it
So you're asking, how does this increase? How did this increase the likelihood that I'm right? Is what your question is, right?
Yeah. Well, 1 second. I'm saying, are you saying that the GE violation is a separate thing? That there was a chilling over there. The detainment is its own thing. This is a separate thing. Or you think that they're connected?
I think they're connected.
You could put these together. Okay.
I think they're intimately connected. So before, when we didn't have the global entry revocation, right? It's a global entry revocation.
Right. Right. Yes.
All we had was a detainment, and it is the case, right, that there could be a great deal of situations that could cause even someone with global entry to be detained, brought to the side, random stop, asking about where you're coming from. So it is the case that prior to our knowledge that the global entry was revoked, there's like a question mark of like, well, did Hassan do something shifty? Why did they stop him? Why did they bring him aside? That kind of thing. However, or also like, where did he go? Right? Did Hassan go to some place like, did he go to Yemen, or did he go to some place in France where he met with some Yemenese people? We don't actually know about it, right? So those were open possibilities that the nature of his travel and the nature of the circumstances at the airport was could have played a role into his detainment. Understand? Right? That was before we knew that the global entry had been revoked months earlier. However, because the revocation of global entry occurred in March, it means that revocation could not have been based on out-of-country conduct and could not have been explained by airport or airplane shiftiness. Agreed? That the revocation could not have been.
Could not have been explained by what?
By airport or airplane shiftiness. Agreed?
Airport or plane shiftiness? Okay.
Agreed? That the revocation could not have been.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. The revocation that happened before him leaving, that was not because of anything that, like, there was no like profiling. There was no like, this happened, therefore we're going to do this.
Yeah,
I would agree with that.
So having removed the in moment of it, and it's happening in March, now actually the out of country conduct is not playing a role because this is prior to him leaving, and any kind of in airport shiftiness or concerns about what he's doing or saying or any kind of jokes he's making actually in the airport that pertain to security, all of that goes away because there's a deprivation that happened in March. That's when the deprivation occurred, and then. I
don't know if I like that word here. Deprivation? The deprivation of what? Of expedited security screening? Maybe deprivation works when it comes to everything, even privileges, but I don't know how I feel about that term being used here, but okay.
Now his stop seems even increased likelihood that the stop is related to the global entry revocation. That is, he professes to be in the global entry line, now having had global entry revoked. And so now the stop makes complete sense. It lines up, and it's based on the underlying global entry revocation, which itself...
Just to be clear, and I understand, I don't know, maybe Pisco's never internationally traveled before. If you go to the global entry line and you don't have global entry, they're not going to take you aside for extra screening. They're just going to tell you you're in the wrong line, you don't have global entry, just to be clear. So I don't know but I don't know. So a lot of people just don't travel internationally, but...
I think the most likely outcome is that it's based on viewpoint discrimination. But the reason why it increases your priors is because now it cancels out the notion that airplane sketchiness or out-of-country conduct is the reason for the detainment and stop.
But we have no idea what the detainment and stop was for. It still could have been for that. Like, there's no reason to rule that out whatsoever.
it kind of forecloses those possibilities.
It doesn't foreclose it at all. That's absolutely and utterly incorrect. And this relies on a fundamental misunderstanding of multiple points of the story and how travel works at all. You don't need a global entry revocation to be pulled aside for additional questions coming back to the country. And coming back to the country from another country means you absolutely could have happened, something could have happened in some other country that would have required you to have gotten pulled aside. Like, this is just completely and utterly and totally wrong. But
yeah, okay, I see what you're saying.
Destiny, okay, I didn't know that. I've never interacted with global entry, so I probably granted a bit too much about the detainment being just, well, like, imagine if you go to like TSA pre and you're in line or whatever, and they're like, oh, you don't have TSA pre. They're not going to say, come aside for extra questions. They're just going to say, go, get out of here. You're not allowed on this line. Go to the other line. Like,
so then focusing then on the GE revocation.
Yeah.
Okay. So in your mind,
you agree he had full global entry, right? He had full global entry. My
understanding is that he and this is my understanding, and I'm fine just like accepting this is true, that he had global entry at somewhere prior in March. I don't know how long, who cares?
February. No, it matters. It matters.
He got it in February. He got it in February?
Yep.
Okay, sure. He got it in February. And then in March, it was he did get it revoked. And I know that he got an email about it, but I don't remember him saying if there was anything in the email saying why it was revoked. But you believe that it was revoked for viewpoint discrimination?
Obviously, yeah.
He says obviously just with zero evidence. That's just such a crazy thing to say. There is no evidence of that being the case. And I would argue circumstantially, there is so much reason to think that it's not the case. Because what did we just read about the Trump admin? The idea that they would ever be quiet about this stuff? Or fuck, no, we just had, who was the guy who had his global entry revoked that the Trump admin said, fuck this guy? Who are we thinking of? He had his security clearance revoked as well. Krebs. Is it Chris Krebs? Like, if somebody were to say, this person's global entry was revoked because of his political position, I'd probably believe it. Because they also revoked his security clearance, and I think they even publicly shit on him saying as much. I think Trump said, I think Chris Krebs is a disgrace to our country. I think he was terrible. By the way, I don't know him. I don't think I've ever met him. I know very little about him. But I think they made a stronger... Oh, he had an executive order instructing the government to punish Krebs in various ways. So yeah, like this makes sense for sure. But okay. So just to be clear, at this point, there's absolutely zero evidence. I don't know why he's saying it's like a foregone conclusion that there was viewpoint. There's zero evidence that there's viewpoint discrimination at this point against Hassan for a global entry to be revoked. There's no evidence whatsoever. But
okay.
So let's talk about it.
When you say obviously, So for as far as viewpoint discrimination, when you say obviously, are you saying it's because of his Israel-Palestine takes, or are you saying because of potential threats to politicians?
He has no idea. He could speculate, but it's all baseless conjecture.
Or connection to the Communist Party. Like, how are you, or interviewing the Houthi people? How are you viewing, like, where does the viewpoint square in on you? Because I guess
he has to just say it's self-evident, basically, or it's common sense. Pisco has to run with like a common sense argument here, because there's zero. There's zero evidence. There's zero evidence.
See some of those being viewpoint discrimination, and I see other ones.
I think they all are.
You think
they're not all are? Okay.
I think any of them could be.
Yeah. So let's just really narrow the conversation.
Sorry, my bad. Actually, there is a way that we could say it's a foregone conclusion, and that's by saying all forms of global entry revocation would be considered viewpoint discrimination, because even threats against politicians, because it's a threat against a politician and that's political and that's a viewpoint being expressed, that somehow that's like viewpoint discrimination. So I guess in that case, I guess, never mind, that is correct. So if I say I want to murder the president and my global entry gets revoked, that was viewpoint discrimination because the president is a Republican, and that was a political statement I made, I guess. But this is ridiculous.
Yeah. My question for you is the following. Do you think, more likely than not, that something Hassan said led to the global entry revocation?
Almost certainly. But just because somebody said something doesn't mean that it's like a viewpoint considered global entry revocation.
I think more likely than not something that he said. Right now,
if you had a gun to your head,
no, I would say no. Like,
no.
Go ahead and say no. Okay. No, I would say no. Now, one second.
Yeah.
That is because, and I'll say this though. That is like, if I had any evidence of it, like I would say this. If they gave me a pretextual reason, but there was some underlying evidence of it, I would believe that it is. It would be very easy to convince me with any kind of actual evidence of it.
Well, we have evidence.
But right now, I think the problem is, real quick, I think the problem is, for me, I think that the government would never have to even discuss his viewpoints. I don't think the government would need his viewpoints to deny him or to revoke his global entry. And that's why I don't think
irrelevant. The question is whether they would need his viewpoints. Doesn't matter.
Like, to be clear, when did Hassan tweet out that picture? Tweets, picture, gun, Japanese, senator. This, what was the date on this? April 16, 2024. Like, if they would have become aware of this afterwards, after granted, like this alone would probably be enough to, oh shit, this guy's shit is getting revoked, right? And I'm sure there's like a dozen or so other statements that Hassan has made where it's like, oof, if security becomes aware of that, then this is a thing that, what was the statement that he made about, if you really want healthcare, then you should be, if you want healthcare to get cheaper, you should tell people to kill Rick Scott or something? What am I thinking of? Rick Scott, Hassan Piker, comment. January, February, March. Was it in April that his global entry got revoked, or was it in March? It could have just been for this. That's protected speech according to Pisco, so revoking GE on that is unconstitutional. Oh, that would, if Pisco says that, that's just a brain dead argument. You don't have a constitutional right to global entry. Like, global entry is an expedited security screening process. Saying statements like this are almost certainly, oh my God. So the argument's not only stupid, it's so much more boring if that's his actual position on this. Does the Rick Scott thing come up here?
What actually motivated them? That's the question.
One second. I think that if we're just talking about like what they did, I think that you're right in what you just said. If we're talking about like legally, if we're discussing like what legally matters here, I think it very much matters because this is a global entry revocation is a we need to see if it's arbitrary and capricious or violating another law, and if it's neither of those, then it drops to rational basis.
Well, hang on a second. So do you think that they could say any Democrat can't get global entry?
They wouldn't say that.
Why not?
No. Any Democrat, because I think that as far as I think they'll be violating. You would hit your second one. You'd be violating any other law. You would be able to say that is viewpoint discrimination.
Oh yeah, so viewpoint discrimination, you agree? Notwithstanding any, so people have been arguing. This is why I asked. I'm not saying that viewpoint discrimination. If it was viewpoint discrimination, then yes, it would be wrong. I am not saying it's okay to do viewpoint discrimination. Okay, perfect. Per se for. So the fact that it's global entry doesn't matter, right? The fact that it's global entry, it's only for the elite people. It's only for the most. That has no bearing, right? If it's viewpoint discrimination, anathema, unless you pass strict scrutiny. Fair?
No, there's no way that's true. There's going to be there must be a different standard for something that would be like a like people in try to bring up driver's license stuff. I don't know if it would be like your standard of review or whatever, like a rational basis versus intermediate or strict scrutiny or whatever. Like the right that you would have to, or the privilege of enjoying expedited screening is going to be probably much harder to lose than your ability to have a driver's license. Although driver's license stuff that's going to be a whole other basket of stuff because those are dealt with by the states and not even the federal government. I don't know if the federal government could restrict a state from issuing you a driver's license. So that would I don't know. That's a whole other thing. That would be weird. Yeah.
Right now, I would say, yeah, the fact that it's GE and the type of privilege that it is not a factor in what I'm discussing. I'm saying that there is something that if you were to go.
Fuck, Kaka's granted so much already that I don't even know if you could win the argument at this point.
With this analysis, all right, what would happen is you would say, okay, where's it arbitrary and capricious? I think that they probably would not be able to show arbitrary and capricious. And I don't think that you would argue arbitrary and capricious.
Whoa. All I'm arguing. So
would you?
I'm not conducting any kind of APA analysis here. All I'm asking is the revocation based in viewpoint discrimination? If it's based in viewpoint discrimination, you would agree illegal, unlawful, correct?
I don't know if I would even necessarily grant those.
Because you're not going to pass strict scrutiny on this.
Well, wait a second. No. You could pass strict scrutiny.
Could you design a way in which you would pass strict scrutiny? Yeah.
I don't know if you would pass strict scrutiny, but would this be a strict scrutiny thing? Strict scrutiny implies is implicating like a big fundamental right to something. Expedited screening in an airport? Hold on. Where's our guidelines or whatever? Give me a chart.
And pause the video. So it requires you to know that education really wants you to know this. In fact, they tested this issue in questions released in 1991 and in 2007. So rational basis scrutiny, the burden is on the plaintiffs to show related to any B is correct because it recognizes the show burden on the government. Okay.
Meow. I don't think you have I don't believe that. I don't think you would have to pass a strict scrutiny thing to kick somebody off an airplane. I'm sorry, not to kick somebody off an airplane. Actually, I don't even think you have to do. I don't even think you have a right to air travel at all, because I think that you can get no-fly listed, and I don't know how much of that is even made available to you. The idea that you have some fundamental, unburdenable right to expedited screening, I don't know. That's wacky as fuck. This is saying why you can get rejected from global entry. Was it just that here, the disqualifying factors? Okay, don't go.
Can you out of everything Hassan has said, is there anything he said that you think would pass strict scrutiny to discriminate on the basis of those viewpoints?
I think that is his statements about threatening politicians, I think, is the closest thing. I would say, though, that it would be easy to defeat it with any amount of evidence. But I think that
no, come on. What he said about Rick Scott, completely protected. You can't think that passes strict scrutiny. The people who have that opinion can be denied global entry. Do you think that?
I don't think that it's the fact that he has an opinion that Rick Scott should die.
No, he didn't have that opinion, but like,
okay.
Like, would it's you have a First Amendment right to say that, and you're definitely free. You can't be arrested for that statement for sure. But disallowed from an expedited screening list, like
here. He replied. So I'm aware of two. There's one where he replied to a sitting congressperson with the weapon. I know what you're saying, that they are protected speech.
Is that yes or no? Is that yes or no? Protected speech both?
Yeah, they're both protected speech. But if something's protected speech, that doesn't mean that you can't still discriminate based off a viewpoint.
Well, you have to pass strict scrutiny. So give me the strict scrutiny.
Very difficult.
Yeah, you can't, right? So if you gun to your head, it would be really, really hard to get any kind of compelling purpose narrowly enough to pass strict scrutiny for those statements, right?
I think yes. I think it'd be very hard.
Okay.
But if Hassan brings, let's say Hassan brought that suit, and he says, you guys did viewpoint discrimination, and the government says, no, you have a DUI, and so we revoked GE, and we're allowed to revoke GE based off of a DUI. What's Hassan's response there? How do you overcome that pretext?
So if there's I take actual motivation based on viewpoint discrimination to be anathema, and that if you can show that one of the purposes behind the revocation was viewpoint discrimination, then that's sufficient. However, if it would be difficult evidentiary case. It would be a difficult evidentiary case. But the thing is, you can't provide a rationale, a pretext. As we sit here, you can't provide me a pretext.
He has a DUI.
But no, but he was approved in February 2025.
Sure. Now, I'll say this. I'll give you this. It might be the case that there's never been a person who had a DUI, got a GE, and then it was revoked when they later found out he had a DUI, right? That might not happen. And if that's the case, then that would be, you would be able to show pretext there. However, if the government say, look...
Oh, I haven't done any First Amendment law. If something violates your First Amendment right, that's not necessarily viewpoint discrimination, is it? I don't know if viewpoint discrimination is broad enough to include that, or if viewpoint discrimination is just viewpoint discrimination if it considers a particular viewpoint that the speaker has, right? So for instance, if I were to say all people that like conservatives are going to be banned from airport travel or something, then that could be considered like viewpoint discrimination because you're considering the viewpoint of the person. But if you were to tailor a restriction that said all people that even joke about killing politicians, that all of those jokes, those people will be removed from an expedited screening list, while you could maybe argue that that's not a good First Amendment thing, although this isn't like a law or punishment, you could say, well, no, you have the right to say that. That would be true. There's no evidence that that's viewpoint discrimination, no? Wouldn't it only be viewpoint discrimination if you were considering the particular viewpoint of the individual? And viewpoint isn't synonymous with just exercising First Amendment right, no?
They approved him in February.
Viewpoint discrimination. Westlaw, Cornell, please give me a good thing. Just give me a thing. Give me a fucking 4 paragraphs to read on this. Viewpoint discrimination is a form of content discrimination particularly disfavored by the courts. When the government engages in content discrimination, it is restricting speech on a given subject matter. Okay, so maybe the viewpoint could just be talking about killing politicians, could be the viewpoint, possibly. So then it could be considered viewpoint discrimination? When the government engages in content discrimination, it is restricting speech. When it engages in viewpoint, wait, I'm sorry, that's content discrimination. When it engages in viewpoint discrimination, it is singling out a particular opinion or perspective on the subject matter for treatment, unlike that given to other viewpoints. Okay, so wouldn't we be talking about like a content discrimination and not a viewpoint discrimination here? It would only be viewpoint discrimination if they allowed people to say, if you want to save, this much money, you should kill Democratic politicians, and you let them through. But then if you discriminate against people who say, well, if you make that same joke about Democrats, now it's not okay, that would be viewpoint discrimination, no? You would have to explain for what reason jokes about killing people would be a basis for revoking global entry, other than that they signal a particular opinion. It could just might make you feel less comfortable about a certain person and that they're more prone to violence, and you just want to do, and you wouldn't feel comfortable expediting that person through a security line. You want to make sure every time they come back to the country or go through security that they have like ordinary screening. For example, if an ordinance banned all speech on the Iraq War, it would be a content-based regulation. But if the ordinance banned only speech that criticized the war, it would be a viewpoint-based regulation. Okay. Because the government is essentially taking sides in a debate when it engages in viewpoint discrimination. The Supreme Court has held viewpoint discrimination to be especially offensive to the First Amendment. Such restrictions are treated as presumptively unconstitutional. So that's intermediate or strict scrutiny. Court holds viewpoint discrimination as egregious free speech violation, declared by the government targets not subject matter, but particular view. Okay. I bet that content discrimination starts off as like rational basis or less or something. Okay.
In that interim period between February and March, are you telling me the most likely situation is that the administration promulgated a new policy against DUIs?
No. You wouldn't need to promulgate a new policy. The government could just say, at the time we didn't know we had a DUI, later we found you had a DUI. They could just show that right there, and then boom.
You shouldn't make this argument. You could, but you shouldn't.
They need to do discrimination. They would be on Pisons to say, no, that's a pretext. Because of that pretext.
I'm asking you what you actually think happened, right? What do you actually think happened? What's actually the purpose behind his revocation? That's what I'm asking you. Do you think if he had the DUI on his record, he was approved in February, full approval?
Okay.
So what changed between February, where there was full, not conditional approval, and March, where there was full revocation of full approval? What do you see as the...
So this is the answer where it's no, but like, I don't know. Somebody said, is it reasonable to say that it could or could not be viewpoint discrimination, but given the character of this admin, it's more reasonable to assume that's the case? No, because this administration is not secretive about anything. If they were kicking people out of the country or kicking people out of global entry because they didn't like their perspective, they would just say it. They would never be quiet about that. This administration has not been silent on anything. They openly brag about, and they openly champion every fucking insane, unhinged thing that they say or do. So why would they be so secretive about something like this? Desi, can you explain the starts as presumptive or starts as rational? I don't know what you said for so like in a rational basis review, a law is made by a state, and basically because it's a rational basis review, maybe the law says something like you're not allowed to piss on a sidewalk. Well, you don't have a right to piss on a sidewalk. Like basically you say, okay, well, is there any rational basis at all? The presumption is that the law is fine. Right? So the presumption is if you want to take that, to court and challenge the constitutionality of this, basically the court is going to look at the state and they're going to say, why do you have this law? And the state's going to go, because we want to fucking piss everywhere. It smells bad. And then the court is going to go, okay, that's rational. It makes sense, right? It's fine. It's not arbitrary, capricious. It's not whatever. Like this law stands. Get fucked. An intermediate scrutiny case is going to be something that implicates, I think it's a quasi-suspect class, which can be things like, is sex and race, or race might be a ultra suspect or highly suspect class. Quasi-suspect might be, I think gender might be quasi-suspect. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. But age might also be a quasi-suspect class. It might be age and gender, the two. There's like big ones if you study this bullshit. But so like, let's say you have a law and the law is like, we're allowed to have women's only gyms. Okay. Well, you're discriminating against sex. Now that's going to be intermediate scrutiny, meaning that Now somebody challenges, well, they have a women's only gym. This is bullshit. Well, in an intermediate scrutiny, the court is going to start off by saying, okay, well, hey, this guy's right. You're discriminating based on sex. You need to have a good argument for why you have this law. Now, if a state can make a decent argument and they're like, oh, well, women like to work out and this guy's, a gooner and he just wants to watch women work out and jerk off all day in the gym. It's not like women get some kind of like specific advantage by having a women's only gym. There's plenty of men or like all gyms like, it's fine. There's a good reason to have this. And the court will, balance the factors and say, okay, well, is the sexism present here? Is it okay? It's probably fine. Like, this is okay. You would survive intermediate scrutiny. And then a strict scrutiny case is where it's like the implication of some fundamental right. So like your freedom of speech, or a suspect class like race, where you're like, so let's say that you have a law that says like black people can't piss on the sidewalk or something, right? Well, now it's going to be like, okay, hold on. You've made a law that is targeting a race. On a strict scrutiny thing, the deck is stacked heavily against the state. You need to make a very, very, very compelling argument for why you have a law that's literally just targeting the race of a person. You need to have a very compelling argument, right? So this is the different levels of like review you would say you would have for a particular law.
Actual most likely scenario for why that was revoked.
You can't, on the one hand, say, tell me exactly why the revocation happened when it wasn't, that isn't viewpoint discrimination. And then when I ask you, tell me exactly how you know it's viewpoint discrimination, and you have nothing to show me there either. You don't have any counterpositive of, here's exactly what the viewpoint discrimination is.
So I have evidence. The problem is, you're saying that it could be something. I'm asking what your opinion is. What's the most likely scenario? What's your opinion?
The most likely scenario is not viewpoint discrimination.
So what's the most likely scenario in between February and March when he was given global entry in February and then denied in March? What's the most likely?
I don't have.
Isn't this getting close to conspiracy theory level? If it was the administration's fault, wouldn't there be some TSA memo out there and yeah, no, this is a full conspiracy. It's not conspiracy theory level or approaching. It is. This is a conspiracy theory with no basis in fact whatsoever. There's more evidence for the Hunter Biden stuff than whatever this is.
I don't have an understanding of the interior of the GE approval and revocation process.
So how do you know? How do you know enough to say that it's not the most likely outcome? You say it's not the most likely outcome. That's your position. You have a position. It's not the most likely outcome.
Because I think that it is more likely that there was an issue regarding his DUI, an issue within the granting of it, or even just that there was a change in leadership within that organization such that they said.
Wait, so how are you able to make a distinction and say it's more likely it's DUI versus viewpoint discrimination? How are you able to come to that conclusion?
I think that because I think a viewpoint discrimination that is that precise and that is that specific is. It borders on conspiracy to say that we're
wait a second. So hang on. So let's get into the evidence of why I think of what I think. All right. So
I would love to hear.
Yeah. Number one, the questions asked at the border that relate to all of these instances of speech that we're talking about. They asked about Rick Scott. They asked about Donald Trump. They asked about the Houthis. They asked about Hamas and his position on the war. So all those questions being linked in time to a stop at the border when he was in the wrong line for the global entry.
This is a tricky. So he's doing a tricky argument right here. Pisco's claim initially is that Hassan was pulled aside for advanced questioning and that was already discrimination, full stop right there, before any questions were asked whatsoever. So this is a tricky that we're doing afterwards, but
what do you mean? What do you mean?
We're talking about the GE. We're talking about the GE.
Yeah. So I'm
and earlier you said it is separate from his actual.
No. So first of all, you've been drinking. So listen carefully. I said that they were linked. Agreed that I said they were linked.
I'm a lawyer.
Wait. Do you acknowledge I said they were linked and not that they were separate? You agree that you were wrong when you just said that I said they were separate, right? You were wrong. Were you wrong? Yes or not? Were you wrong? So you just made a claim, right? Sorry. You just. We need to be able to agree on what we said. So we need to be able to agree on what we said. So I had said you had asked. You think they're separate or linked? You agree that I said that they were linked, not that they were separate, correct?
You said that is. 1 second. Correct me. I'm about to say what I remember you saying, and correct me in my recollection. You said that his out-of-country behavior and his shiftiness in the airport is not what led to him being detained, or at least is not what led to him losing the GE status, which means that if he got pulled aside because he didn't have GE status, right, that now his detainment is more linked to that revocation rather than to
none of that is responsive to what
I know what you said. I'm asking you. What you said?
So I did say,
because that sounds like you're saying.
Hang on. So you're clearly not understanding. You're not understanding. So what I clearly said was it discounts certain explanations because a deprivation happened before the point and stop. And so because that revocation, I take the logical conclusion, I think the most likely scenario, the revocation is related to the stop in the global entry line.
I'm being a debate bro now, but like logical conclusion is like something that necessarily deductively follows. That's not like a strict notion, but it is quite the leap to say it logically. The logical conclusion when you are 100% conjecture view based with zero evidence whatsoever. We are on the airiest, the lightest. We're standing on clouds, okay, claiming that we're on solid ground to say that we've solid, like there's nothing.
It cuts out the notion that it's other, shiftiness in the airplane, and that it cuts out the notion of outside country activities. I never said they were separate incidents. I said they were linked, and the reason I said they were linked is because I think the revocation is responsible for the stop of the global entry line. And so I'm going to ask you one more time.
And we have no evidence of that either. Zero evidence whatsoever of that. But
agree that I said when you asked me, are they linked or are they separate? I said they were linked. Correct?
I'll grant it to you. Okay. Apparently I don't remember it. Yeah, but let me ask you one clarifier. Can I ask you one clarifier?
There are so many questions that you could ask about this that immediately kills this argument, first of all, why didn't Hassan ever publicize when he got his global entry revoked? That's kind of crazy. Number one. Number two, if they were going to do some kind of weird screening, fucky thing here, why didn't they do like pull him aside and super screen him when he was leaving the country? Why did they wait for him to come back? Number three, why didn't anything happen? So they asked him all the questions and he gave all the edgy answers and then nothing happened. They just let him through like normal. Four, why did Hassan lie about so many different parts of the stops? If it was as bad as he says it was, why did he lie and say it was 2 hours when it was probably 15 minutes? And then five, when he got pushed on it later, he said he didn't even care about the overall amount of stoppage anyway. There's so many parts of this that is, he didn't know initially that his global entry was revoked. Oh, did he say that? He missed that email? Do you have a physical global entry card? I have no idea. Somebody said that you always get one mailed out to you. I don't remember getting one mailed out to me. Maybe I did, I just missed it, but.
Fire. If his actions on the plane and his actions outside of the country, you're saying that those are then not as much of a factor as the GE revocation. When I ask you for the viewpoint,
I'm about to explain, right? So I'm about to
we're
explain.
not talking about him being in the airport.
Yeah. So you agree that things that happen afterwards, right? So conduct that occurs afterwards can explain and provide reasoning for things that happened before. Fair?
And maybe some of the most
is the answer yes or no?
General and wide stance. I think that it is an incredibly tepid yes.
Well, hang on. So I'll give you an example.
Oh yeah, wait. That email might have been a response to his appeal for the global entry being revoked because it said it was a redress response. So he knew that his global entry was revoked, but he never made a big deal about that at all publicly, which is crazy. Why would he not make a big deal about that? Hassan makes a big deal about everything. So
it is the weakest inference.
I'll give you an example then. So let's say the following situation: someone has rejected global entry, and then 2 months later, a whistleblower comes out and says, "I know what the revocation was for. We didn't know anything, but it's because he was black." Would you say, "Well, no, he said that statement after the revocation, and so it can't be related to it"?
That would be directly related to it, but the being pulled aside for additional questioning doesn't have anything to do with being kicked out of global entry. But okay,
or would you say no? Of course,
it could, but that's we're drawing a big inference there.
Happen after can indicate intent from before. Fair?
Wait a second. I'm sorry. So they get revoked. They're in the airport, and then the agent at the airport
2 months later says, 2 months later is like, okay, we did it because he was black. Would you ever be like, oh well?
What? No, what's it? Who's saying?
Oh
we did it
my God! It's a hypothetical.
No. Yeah, and I'm torturing it to understand because I don't think it matches the facts of the case that we're discussing.
Some person who had reason to know and was in the room at the thing that happened. I'm establishing the bare point that conduct that happens after something occurs can help explain the rationale for what happened before. Correct?
Yes. It can. You can give that, yeah.
I would say yes, but not outcome determinative. If we were on appeal and this came up, there's no way the court would say
it was outcome determinative. Wait, what do you mean by it can't be outcome determinative? So all of a sudden you have global entry.
I think he said not necessarily outcome determinative. Right?
I would say yes, but not outcome determinative. If we were on appeal and this came up, there's no way the court would say
it was outcome determinative. Wait, what do you mean by it can't be outcome determinative? So if
he didn't say it can't be. For somebody who's being such a stickler for words, that was a tricky thing. He just said it's not outcome determinative, meaning it could give you some indication of an early behavior. And this happens all the time. This happens in criminal shit, right? Like if you kill somebody and then you try to hide the body afterwards, and the cops, you get caught trying to hide the body, that's going to play against you hardcore. That's going to be used like crazy. Like you obviously knew you did some fuck shit, right? But to say just because you say that's not outcome determinative doesn't mean you say it can't be outcome determinative. It could be, right? But
so all of a sudden you have global entry revoked.
I said it wouldn't be.
Wait. So
I said like in this case,
so that's not right. So if
oh my
I
God,
said,
dude, holy shit,
you were denied global entry or you were revoked global entry, and then 2 months later, the very person who denied it admits that it was because of viewpoint discrimination, you would consider that after evidence to be dispositive and outcome determinative, correct?
Okay, in that
yes
case,
or no? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. So
however,
it can be
playing fast and loose.
No. We're just like children building blocks right now, and you won't even grant me. You won't even grant me like basic things like, things that the government does after can inform why they did things initially.
I think that saying that the things that the government does afterwards is quite a bit different from a person admitting that they did something 2 months ago.
No, but you won't even
grant. Very different.
So if we had video of Hassan.
Well, I think Kafka's scared to grant this here because he thinks it's going to be used against his But you can grant these things, of course, the things a government does afterwards. Like, by the way, there's still a world where the Hassan story could be right. If the Trump admin came out or some big leak came out and it was like, they've been instructed to do extra screening for all people who have social media profiles that are against Donald Trump or something, or that say bad things about Republicans or whatever, that would be evidence towards, oh shit, actually, fuck, maybe he did get pulled over and asked extra questions just because of a viewpoint that he has about the Trump admin. That could be the case, right? Now, we have none of that. There's zero evidence of that whatsoever, but that could be a thing that would come out, and then I would reevaluate some of the earlier stuff,
Getting stopped, and the agent brings him up in and says, so you don't like Trump, do you? And he starts with that. He says, why don't you like Trump? You don't love Trump? Wait, do you like Hamas? Do you support terrorism? And he started asking questions in the way I said. Would you say, oh, that is not at all indicative of the reason that they revoked him 2 months before? Would you say that?
It's not like, it could be, but I don't think these systems are as linked. like when the border guard is talking to you, or when I don't even know if is it ICE or is it CBP? It's the Customs and Border Patrol or whatever. When you come back into the country, I don't know if like when you go through the line, it's like global entry, revoke this passenger. Blah. Like I don't know if that's a thing that they even know, or if they've got to like click a few times to even get to that. Who knows? I'm not sure. I don't know. I just don't know the answer to that. I know he doesn't know, but
would you say it's pretty indicative?
I would say that is
could be.
No, I would not say it's indicative. I don't know how you're connecting them.
Wait, so even if you don't say so even if you grant this is how crazy that the Hassan nature brings out in all these people. So even if you grant the factual circumstances of everything that Hassan is saying,
I don't watch him. I don't give a fuck. I'm talking to you about the evidence of this case.
So in this case, I'm giving you a hypothetical, and in that hypothetical, the border agent pulls Hassan aside and says, "Do you like Trump? Tell me, why don't you like Trump? You should like Trump." Wait, you don't like Trump? And that's all they're asking. Would you like Trump? And he was revoked 2 months before. And it says, all right, move along. You would say that line of questioning has no tendency to prove the rationale of the revocation happened months before. Is that your position?
It could.
Yes, I don't know how.
That's crazy.
You've not connected these things.
Okay,
wait a second. No.
That's crazy.
I let you run through some hypotheticals. I need to ask you. Okay, if you do that there, okay, let's say it does. Let's say I'm granting it to you and it does.
No, I don't want that. No, you'd be a fool not to consider it. You'd be a fool not to consider it.
Let's say it is.
I think Kafka is trying too hard to link this to the actual case, and Pisco is just completely an aside hypothetical line. I think you can grant this to Pisco, sure. Yeah, that could be that would at least be evidence, maybe even strong evidence towards the assumption that the original revocation was done for Trump-related comments, right? You can grant that, I think. But it has nothing to do with this case. But you could grant that for the sake of exploring that hypothetical.
That agent at that airport is operating in a connection to the person who denied Hassan for disliking Trump. There's a connection, and it's happened within a month. Within a month, that agent has spoken or seen something that said Hassan Piker doesn't like Trump. And if you see, this is what he looks like. And if you see him, then what you want to do is you want to pull him aside, you want to ask him these things. And because we already revoked his GE because of this reason. And so what we want you to do is we want you to delay him so he misses his Uber and has to order a new one.
Why are you adding
because
that
we
shit?
I mean, because this is come on.
Wait,
you're saying that like what level of conspiracy you're extracting
it's not a conspiracy at all. No, it's not a conspiracy at all. So what I'm saying is in the hypothetical in which
to be clear, Pisco is actually alleging a conspiracy. Now, maybe he doesn't mean it in the negative way, but he is alleging that there is a secret conspiracy right now to engage in viewpoint discrimination against people coming back to the country. And he has no proof of that. So it fits the formal definition of a conspiracy, and I would argue that it fits the informal definition of a conspiracy theory, the colloquial definition of conspiracy theory, because he has no evidence for it. But
Hassan is pulled aside, and he's asked these questions about his positions on Trump. And in the basis of the revocation, it's not unreasonable to think that if you're revoked global entry for a reason, you agree it would not be unreasonable to think that CBP would have access to the basis of your revocation. That's not unreasonable, correct?
They could have access to it. That is true. And my guess would be they do have access. Actually, would I assume they have? They could. They could. It's possible. It would probably depend on what it was revoked for, but they could.
That's not unreasonable.
Okay, so there's a good base.
Like, for instance, if your thing gets revoked because you get a DUI or something, or you get some kind of criminal charge like that, and then you come back to the country, I don't know if the CBP guy would have a record of this guy got a DUI in the United States of America 4 months ago. I don't know if he would. I'm not sure. Maybe not.
There's a good basis to believe that you wouldn't actually need coordination with the fucker who actually wrote it down, as opposed to the written statement of why global entry was revoked, such as like what the facts are and what the statements were that caused them to revoke the global entry. That you wouldn't need to have a meeting of the minds agreed, would you, with the actual CBP agent on the ground and whoever it was that put the actual basis for the revocation, correct?
Okay, 1 second. Yes, sure, yes.
Okay.
1 second. No, I think you are actually, I think that unfortunately, I think that you are not considering the fact that these people are fucking fascists, and there is zero chance that they would not cover themselves with bullshit pretext. If they 1 second, if they actually did it, let's say all that's true, and they look up Hassan Piker, GE revoked, you seriously think they would write down a viewpoint discrimination reason and not a bullshit pretext so that they could cover their ass in writing? You seriously think that they wouldn't do that?
So they literally have made a policy that is looking at people's social medias and rescinding benefits on the basis of their political opinions. And you agree with this as applied to non-American citizens. So
on the basis of their political opinions, that's possible. But I think they always could do that. I think they could always go through your social media. I don't know about political opinions, but I think they always could go through your social media for like student visas and stuff in order to do that. So
we're going to walk you through that. So you agree that they're doing exactly that for people like Rameza Ozturk and Mahmoud Khalil, correct? Exactly what you say is so crazy that they would put it down on paper. They're doing literally that when it comes to non-citizens, correct? Yes.
For those people, yeah. However, like for Mahmoud Khalil, this is such a good example if Kafka, because that example goes in, it cuts in his favor. Because Kafka just said that they would create some pretextual reason for doing it. They're not getting rid of the Mahmoud Khalil guy. They didn't say it was just because of his viewpoint. They also made up some bullshit about he supported Hamas and he was like giving material support and all that and blah blah to try to point to some part of the law, that is definitionally pretextual. They're fabricating some bullshit reason that we all know is bullshit in order to kick him out for what is ultimately viewpoint discrimination. But that cuts in Kafka's favor.
Yes or no?
Yeah, they are doing
the
it. And
answer
not only are they
fucking
doing
yes.
They're making it. Yeah, and they're not only doing it, they're doing it publicly, and they're not hiding it and not talking about it.
So
where's the public statement? Where's the public statement?
Whoa, big contradiction. You just said fascist regimes. No, big contradiction. You said, oh, fascist regimes, of course, they're going to put in some pretext, some procedural reason why. And now you just said, well, of course.
They definitionally did do a pretextual procedural reason why. They literally cited to an explicit specific law that talks about giving material support to terror. We literally looked this up on Pisco's literally spoken about the exact law before in a debate with somebody, with another lawyer. For Mahmoud Khalil, they cited a specific law and specific lines in that law that I've heard Pisco argue about before. Right? Does anybody remember this?
Of course, the fascist regime is going to be open about it. So which is it?
No, of course a fascist regime is going to openly sue people, but if you go read those cases, they're making up pretext there. They're coming up with all sorts of bullshit to try to take these people out of the country. It's not like showing up and saying, that brown person is brown, so getting ML. I'm saying that they have enough brains in their head, and they can look at the system, and then also on top of that, if they are doing things publicly, why has literally nobody talked shit on Hassan Piker? Why has nobody come out here and said, oh, look what we did, fuck Hassan Piker, we're going to do as many left-wing extremists possible.
Let's just drill down on something.
That would be consistent with all the actions of the administration so far. Correct.
You agree that the administration is saying, on the basis of political beliefs, and they're instituting this policy at the border, they're saying, if you have these beliefs, we're going to reject your student visa, reject your green card, and not let you in the country.
That's not pretextual means the opposite of that, but okay.
Are doing that, and they have the capability technically and feasibly to do it.
Yeah.
Well, wait. Are you saying there's some conspiracy? There's some conspiracy between the average CBP agent who's stopping the person at the border?
That's not a conspiracy. That's out in the open. That's being stated. It's not like a conspiracy theory. Like, that's just an out in the open stated thing.
And whoever it was put the flag on the non-citizen? There's some conspiracy?
Yes, there is literally a conspiracy. Yes.
Oh, now they're going back and forth between conspiracy versus like conspiracy theory or whatever.
They were all talking to each other. No, all it takes.
There's a top-down policy.
Yes, there's a policy, and it's applying not just to green card holders. It's you agree it's applying to green card holders. It's applying to every non-citizen, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And we have U.S. citizens. One who's been identified, Chris Krebs, who had his global entry revoked because of his political positions. Fair?
Yes, but that was they publicly made. He was targeted in an executive order. Addressing risks from Chris Krebs and government censorship. Yes, we agree. Yes.
Wait, are you referring to Hassan?
No, Chris Krebs.
Oh, Chris Krebs. Yeah, I'm aware of Chris Krebs. Actually, and I'm sorry, but I don't think that the Chris Krebs one is actually really interesting because this was discussed in in one of the cases with the big law firms where they sought a preliminary injunction against an executive order against them, where a judge specifically talked about the revocation of
Chris Krebs global entry
and things like in global entry. But the deal is they talked about how that from a presidential order, the president can't do an individual revocation.
We're not talking. Oh my God! We're not talking about. Excuse me. We're not talking about whether or not it's. We're not talking about whether or not it's justiciable. We're not talking about whether or not a court can order a remedy. We're not talking about whether or not determinations about security clearance are reviewable in the main or not, or whether the security clearances are removable as a general policy. That's not what we're talking about. We're saying the administration is willing to go after U.S. citizens and revoke their global entry based on their political beliefs. Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. So we have, on the one hand, the policies which show a technical capability, a desire, actually carrying it out to go after people because of their stated beliefs, and that's being implemented somehow on the ground, right? Somehow these CBP agents are doing this, right? They're getting orders somewhere, right?
Are they though? Is there evidence of them? I don't believe there's evidence. I know some people are saying like some guy got kicked out because of a picture of JD Van. I don't believe those. If this was happening, it would be happening on such a widespread basis. And I think the admin would just be bragging about it. And somebody would have leaked like an email or a policy by now. I think people are doing dumb shit and people like get kicked out or don't make it through border screening. Like this happens. And people are just like, well, if I had a picture of a guy or if I said something about Trump, I'm going to say it was because of that. But there's been like 2 or 3 of these. There's no shot.
They are, but I don't see how the CBP agents are involved with what happened to Chris Krebs. I don't see that. I don't see a connection there. I see the White House directing DHS.
CBP is a part of DHS, right? CBP is a part of DHS. Fair, agreed?
Sure.
Okay, and so DHS then orders CBP to do what? Revoke global entry, right?
Yes. Okay. There's a top. Yes. So with Krebs, we have this top down. We have it. We can see how it happened.
Wait. So if Chris Krebs was stopped when he tried to get into the global entry line, would you say, oh, the CBP agent, like, wow, you're alleging a conspiracy between the CBP agent and they're asking me these questions. You're alleging a conspiracy between Trump and the random CBP agent. Would you say that or not?
No, I wouldn't say that there was one there because we have explicit policy saying that Chris Krebs is to lose the global entry in his secret classifications, things like that.
So all it would take, right?
White House policy.
So you're acknowledging all it would take is some supervisory agent to give a memo to CBP or to give a directive to CBP and say, revoke that guy's global entry. All it would take is that, and then it's going to be enforced. There's no conspiracy needed. There's no grand conspiracy needed.
Yes.
You would get the
yes. You shouldn't argue that point. You should immediately give that. Yes, of course. If there was an email from somebody about how, if there was an email from somebody saying, go after Hassan Piker or do this, whatever, then everybody, me included, Dan even, as much as he might hate it, we'd be like, oh yeah, shit, he got targeted 100%. But there's no evidence of that happening right now. But if that was an email, of course, we would have to say yeah, of course.
The basis of the stop, notification. Yeah, it would be dead simple. It wouldn't require a coordination among the on the grounds persons. Agree with that, right? It wouldn't take that. All it would take is someone at DHS to write in something on his global entry and to order it to be disseminated, and then whoever's going to stop you is going to see that and it's going to ask you some questions about it. That's all it would take.
No,
what do you mean? No. What do you mean? No.
You're describing a very different process than what happened to Kafka.
He is, but Pisco's just asking a hypothetical. Kafka, he's not talking about what actually happened. He's just describing a hypothetical. You can grant the hypothetical without tying it to the original case. And then if you think that it's not analogous to the original case, then you can fight the disanalogousness or the disanalogies later on or whatever. But you can.
Krebs was explicitly removed from these programs in an executive order, a public statement by the White House. This was not a DHS
what am I talking about?
Officer. You said a DHS officer walks by, hands these guys a memo and says, fuck Hassan. That is very different from the president publicly shouting out, fuck Chris Krebs.
It is different, but he's just exploring a hypothetical.
No, I'm countering.
And then he's losing his
I'm countering the notion that it would take some involved conspiracy to get this effectuated. All it would take is one word from a DHS with supervisory authority, or to write something on his global entry, to look him up and write something there, and then it would be effectuated. It wouldn't require some massive conspiracy. Agreed? That's what you painted it.
Yes.
I would for a
yes.
okay. U.S. citizen. Yes.
Why?
Do you have any example of a U.S. citizen getting this revoked for viewpoint discrimination that did not involve an executive order directly from?
No, sorry. Why would I need that? I'm asking you a simple question, which is, would it require a criminal or not criminal? Would it require a meeting of the minds between the on the ground agents and the top down DHS official for them to effectuate this? It wouldn't require that, would it? Why would it require that?
Without an EO, yeah. Without some kind of EO, you would need some kind of, because there's no public statement. There's
why would you need one?
Why
would you need one? Why would you need a policy statement? Why would you need a public directive targeting Hassan specifically? Why would you need that? All I'm saying is you wouldn't need,
because without it would be a conspiracy.
Why? All it would take is one DHS official to write why he's being revoked, and that would be effectuated, wouldn't it?
If that is the case, if that is what happened,
I'm asking you.
Then it's not. I don't know the interior of these places to know exactly how these revocations.
So is the answer then you don't know whether it would, because the way you painted it was like you're alleging some massive conspiracy and all the ground people got together in a room and they called and said Hassan's back. No, that's not what it would require at all. And the proof of that is all it would take. The CBP officers at the border probably don't know who Chris Krebs is, but they put a little fucking indicator, a little flag on your global entry, and they put an indication of who this person is, and it doesn't require a massive coordination. It's one system, and the CBP officer is going to know the reason of the revocation.
Then I don't know how, if it's that simple, then I don't know how I can allege that the administration is doing it. If it is so simple that it takes two people, an officer and an agent, to fuck Hassan's day up, then I don't know why I'm jumping so far as to say this entire administration now is targeting these people for Viewpoint. It's either because you are either talking about a conspiracy against the Viewpoint or not.
They're members of the administration.
Okay, and for some reason now we're implying a
DHS officer is a member of the administration. Do we say that ordinarily? Is every federal officer a member of the current administration? I feel like when we talk about the current administration, I feel like you're generally talking about like the Bush admin was like the White House and then like your cabinet level officials. I guess you could maybe. I don't know. That feels weird. Like every agent and every interior person is like part of the administration. Yeah, I feel like these are like appointments generally, but
either are they acting independently with the intent to support the administration, or is the administration giving them these orders such that we cannot see those orders being given, and now they're acting on behalf of the administration, which I would describe as conspiracy.
Bro, I just have to ask if you're living in the same country as me. So do you know the die work where guy, the Derek guy? You know what I'm talking about?
The die work where guy? Oh, is he that Twitter guy?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
yeah, he does shit.
He released a long scrawl on Twitter, and he's like, I was actually a legal immigrant, and then everyone started adding DHS and adding the vice president, and the vice president of the United States answered, said, we're looking into this, and then put eye emojis, and like DHS eye emoji die work where, and so it wouldn't. I'm not saying that any like that Trump had firsthand knowledge of this, but the leadership, the senior leadership of the DHS, is memeing about going after die work where based on his position regarding the immigration and that stuff, or whatever his long scroll was. So all that is to say is all it would take is a member of senior leadership of DHS to have a conversation with the head of CBP, who is an insane Trump appointee, to be like, yeah, revoke it for this person, this person, this person. They've already shown that they're willing to target people, Chris Krebs, die work where, and yeah, I mean, it wouldn't take a massive conspiracy to do this. It would just take one member of DHS, leadership or CBP leadership to literally write the basis and put it in his record, whatever that is, and then the CBP agent would effectuate it. That's all it would take. It's not very complicated. Agreed? Agreed? Yes or no? Agreed?
No, I don't.
You think it's complicated? Okay.
You're describing it as a very complicated thing of there are people acting, they're mind reading.
You should just grant this. You should grant it and say, I agree. This is possible. This is conceivable, right? It's conceivable. This is conceivable.
About them to go, we don't like this type of person, so I'm going to make an exhibit and write down something that is going to fuck this administration hard to this agent, to any agent that sees it. Because now there are thousands of these fuckers out there who can just see this now, who are just going to see this, and they're going to look at that and go like, I guess we're just doing some viewpoint discrimination, and I was just going to look at this guy, or if it pops up, I guess we're just going to see that shit, and yeah. Why would you, it is so, that is them just fucking themselves so hard.
How?
And again, if they were willing to do, how? You are creating the worst possible exhibit you can. And there's this person doing that.
They're willing to do it with Mahmoud Khalil. They're willing to do that with Kilmar Burger Garcia.
No, they're willing to do those publicly. They don't do any of these privately or secretly. These are big public shows of force. Even the example that you gave of the dye workwear guy on Twitter was like tweeting the eyes and tweeting the DHS thing. These were big public shows. That was the difference between these. If Kafka wanted to, if he doesn't want to engage with the hypothetical, he should say, is there anything secret that's come out about any of this type of discriminatory behavior? Because I don't know if that's happened at all. I feel like there's so much public stuff. I don't know if this admin wants to do anything secret. They feel like they do everything out in the open.
No, they all have arguments behind them. I don't know what like crazy exhibit that you're talking about there that they're creating without publicizing.
Wait, for Mahmoud Khalil.
Like, what do you mean?
For Mahmoud Khalil and Ramez Osterk, they're like, these people are against this, our international relations. They're bad for our foreign relations. That's what they say. They have some pretext. They always have a pretext that say, oh, this is not an issue. This is not so you're right. Like the fascist regime is always going to have a pretext. I mean, I don't, or even this administration, because sometimes they have to go to court and sometimes they care about what the judges say. Sometimes they don't. But all I'm going to say is like they have showed a unhinged level of care when it comes to following the law and leaving. Like, have you read the New York Times? There's a whistleblower that came out from the DOJ who basically showed all of the crazy shit that senior leadership of the DOJ and DHS were doing to ignore the courts when it came to some of these recent cases. Kilmar case, alien enemies case, third country deportation.
I get a chance to read that one. Yeah, it seems really good.
It's completely fucked up. They have no care in the world about following court's orders or the people who are getting fired and terminated or suspended. And so there's no reason to think that they're going to be hemmed in. And because there's so much mystery sometimes surrounding some of these decisions, they think they're absolutely going to get away with it. So it's not this big conspiracy thing. All I have to do is be like, yeah, fuck them over. And you wouldn't put it past the Trump administration to do that, right? They're totally willing and capable to do that, right?
I would never say this is outside their capability. And I would never say it. And here's the other side. If it came out that, let's say, your entire story, everything, like you nail it perfectly. I would not read that headline and go like, oh my God, my world has changed. I can't believe they did. No.
Because you don't give a fuck about the First Amendment. Because you don't care about, you're saying you would or wouldn't?
No. I'm saying like, in the sense of like my understanding
they
of
would
the
do
Trump
it.
administration.
Oh, right,
it's like, yeah, I could totally see that the Trump administration would do. To be clear, I'm not saying I think it's
no, but you're saying it would require some kind of, we're saying it would require some kind of really out there conspiracy for it to occur.
I'm saying
it wouldn't require that at all.
Right now.
No, it wouldn't require that there.
There's no evidence of anything other than a potential conspiracy.
So there's some conspiracies. There are some conspiracies that are really outlandish.
I don't know how Kafka's not engaging well with the hypothetical, but it's understandable what he's saying. Kafka's just saying that to automatically assume that a CBP officer would have access to the GE revocation reason for Hassan Piker requires a bit of, or that somebody told him or communicated that with no evidence. So that's a bit conspiratorial. We don't have any evidence of that whatsoever. We have there's just no evidence that that's been the case. That's all he's saying. But
because it would require so many moving parts, like 9/11, right? The notion that could be orchestrated by the U.S. government, you would expect to see what I'm hearing from pushing for CBP ground. Agreed? Oh, you're just saying that it's conspiracy. No. You're accusing me of saying there's some elaborate conspiracy against Hassan. It wouldn't take that. This would be dead simple to do. It would be dead simple to do.
I'm sorry. I have not said it's going to be dead simple to do. I think that this requires it's either dead simple because the amount of independent action by the people on the ground are such that the administration could not be held accountable for this, or there is a grand conspiracy. I cannot the problem is you're making a lot of very good inferences here, yet none of these rise to a prima facie case of viewpoint discrimination.
No,
nothing here.
Hang on, just one sec. So, if I'll give you an example. The Kristi Noem is the head of DHS. If Kristi Noem said to CBP head and said, "Hey, we saw Hassan Piker say this about Rick Scott. See if he has global entry. Terminate if he does," and then they do that, and they write down the statements that Hassan made, put it in the memo, or put it on in his file. 2 points of contact, and the CBP agent effectuates it. That's all it would take, right?
I think yes. I think that what you have just described to me is a conspiracy upon which that I am not comfortable in believing in.
What do you mean
without some further evidence? That is you saying that Kristi Noem, the head of the DHS, revokes GE. Just because she doesn't like Hassan Piker, and there has been no other such revocations, just Hassan Piker. You're telling me that Kyle Kulinski doesn't deserve the same treatment if Hassan gets this?
We don't know if he has global entry. We don't know if he asked for it. We don't know if he left the country. We don't know anything.
Someone get him to check, because if that's the basis on which they're getting rid of it, I think.
Or me, right? I feel like I fucking drew the ire of like the whole fucking conservative world on those firefighter comments. I still have my global entry. My shit didn't get revoked. I've said a bunch of unhinged shit on like programs and stuff. Like, has this happened to any other like left-leaning liberal influencer commentator? Anybody? Any of them? Any of the CNN guys, Jake Tapper, or any other YouTuber? It just so happened to only impact Hassan Piker, one of the most like attention-hungry people who literally lied about 80% of his fucking story. Like, really? Come on.
That Khaleesi certainly's earned it because I mean, like that's like I don't know how we're saying like Hassan is the grand architect that's going to be the one to take down this way, but nobody else.
What I'm saying is it wouldn't take some grand thing. The Rick Scott comment, they're asking about the Houthis, they're asking him about his opinions on Trump, and they're asking him about his opinions on the war, to me suggested they had prior knowledge of those statements, and in fact that played a role in what...
There's nothing there. If you listen to Hassan tell the story, Hassan is walking him through the whole conversation. What prior knowledge do you need, right? What do you do for work? Oh, I stream. What kind of stream do you say? Oh, I talk about politics and stuff a lot. Oh, politics. Like, how do you feel about, you know, like the current... Oh, you know, I got my problems with Trump and everything. It's like, what about the war? Oh, you know, I'm an Israel guy or whatever. You know, oh, really, Israel guy. What do you like about Israel? Oh, you know... I like to kiss the Western Wall. I make out with it every single day. It's like, oh, shit, are you Jewish or whatever? Like, your takeaway from the end of that convo could be, what? He asked you about Trump? He asked you about how Jewish you were? He asked you about Israel? He asked you about holy site? Like, well, yeah, but I mean, like, that was the direction the conversation went. He didn't need any prior knowledge to get there, right?
The revocation was. And I think that is just, for you to say that wouldn't be evidence, at least acknowledge that is some evidence.
It's not evidence at all. This is just somebody who's never been pulled aside ever and asked questions before. Jesus, I got into so many details of my StarCraft career when I got super interrogated that one time coming up from Germany, right? I had to like scroll through my Skype to find evidence from Dennis that I even got invited over there to do the casting in, I think it was for the first Home Story Cup. I went through so much of my career when I was talking to these people, but I don't think that was because they knew about me in advance. It was just the direction the conversation went.
I would include that as evidence if I was bringing a case. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
However,
is it the reason they're asking?
I just answered the question. I'm going to ask a question to you. Just in the same way that you said, oh, they already knew about the DUI whenever they gave him the approval. Hassan made all these statements, did all these actions before he received approval. He received approval within the Trump administration. So why is it that he's getting the approval within there? And then what changed? What changed that made him get revoked in March?
So two things. One is the Rick Scott comment happened 2 days before the revocation.
Well, he wasn't asked about Rick Scott.
He was
at the airport.
According to Hassan, he was.
Oh, wait, at the airport he was?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. I genuinely didn't know that. So fair enough.
Okay. So one is...
Was he? Did he? I don't remember. He might have been. Hassan Piker... Fuck, what's the VOD or YouTube video? YouTube, airport, security... We're caught lying.
Now to this developing story that may be...
Fuck, I'm not gonna be able to find this.
And
I wonder how it came up. What was the context of it coming up?
would happen. I wanted to actually see this experience, which is why instead of immediately lawyering up, I was like, no, I'm gonna entertain this. I'm gonna see what they actually are trying to get out of this. And I'm glad I did this because the reality of the matter is, one, I'm profoundly privileged, okay? Remember, I'm a public person. And also, I have enough money to be able to fight back against this sort of thing. And they know who the fuck I am. So obviously, the reason for why they're doing that is, I think, to try to create an environment of fear, to try to get people like myself, or at least like others that would be in my shoes that don't have that same level of security, to shut the fuck up. And for me, I'm gonna use the privilege that I have in that moment to try and see what the fuck they're doing, okay? Because every single thing that they ask me, trying to get me to say something like, oh, I support Hamas or whatever, is literally not allowed. Like, what the fuck do you mean? Like, why is this denying me entry into the country of my birth? Like,
there's nothing that was indicative that they were going to deny him entry if he said any of these things. And supporting Hamas will absolutely get you questioned. There are what are you, of course, coming back into the country?
This is my birthright. I'm an American citizen. You can't just stop me at the border and be like, what's your opinion on Donald Trump? You're not allowed to enter the nation. Like, that was the first half. Like I said, they asked about the Twitch bans. They asked about like the Rick Scott statement. And I was like, listen, you know, I laughed. I was like, I'm not calling for the assassination of a sitting senator to be insane. But instead, I explained to him, like, I was talking about the hypocrisy of the Republicans, blah, blah, blah. I explained
wait, was he banned for the Rick Scott statement? So was it that like it came up that he got banned from Twitch and then the Rick Scott statement came up? Because that's a little bit different. Yeah, he was banned for a day. Okay. Then that's a different thing, right? It's not like they just started off with
saying, oh, well, since you mentioned that, what do you do as a job? And I was like, I'm a Twitch streamer. And he's like, well, since you mentioned that, you were a Twitch streamer, what kind of things do you stream about? And at first I was like, do I just tell him I play video games? Because I don't think someone's going to believe me if I say I just play video games to him, right? So I was just like, yeah, I play video games, but I also do current events, sometimes drama, internet. And he's like,
so Hassan is leading the conversation. The guy asked, like, oh, what do you stream about? He's like, oh, politics. I talk about politics. I talk about current events.
Oh, do you talk about, since you mentioned that, you talk about the things that you talk about, do you talk about the news? And I was like, yeah, I talk about the news. And he kept saying, okay, so when you talk about the news, do you talk about the war? And I was like, what do you mean by that? He's like, do you talk about Trump. And that was the first time where I was like, what the is this question? Like, I literally straight up told him, I was like, why are you asking me this? Like, I was like, what does this have to do with anything? And it was interesting because the dude asked so many insane questions, none of which is illegal, by the way. I just need you to understand. Nothing I've done online is illegal as of now, if that makes sense. Now, laws may change in the future, and they might actually start prosecuting speech, which I do fear is the goal of this administration. But so far, everything I've done is fully protected under the First Amendment, okay? And none of these questions are actually valid questions to ask. But I was I
don't know how they're not valid questions. They can ask you whatever they want, right? Like, but
voices in the country getting detained by the Trump Gestapo. Like, what a wonderful progressive audience they have over there. Anyway, they're straight up fascist at this point. So my point is, it's crazy that like these were actual questions. Like, they asked me about my Twitch bans, okay? And I talked about blowback. I talked about how, I said America deserved 9/11 and it was misconstrued. I do have sometimes, I use hyperbolic language and it gets taken out of context or whatever. And he agreed with the blowback sentiment in terms of like the 9/11 stuff. Yeah, they asked me about my Twitch bans, chat. It's not even a joke. They asked me about Twitch bans. The other Twitch ban he asked me about was the last one that I got banned. And I explained to him like, this is, man, you really talk way too much. Lawyer will be pretty upset at you. Dude, what are you talking about?
Okay.
The new statement of Rick Scott was like 2 days before the revocation of global entry. So I'm just saying in terms of time. And also all of their policies going through social medias and starting to ding people, both non-citizens and citizens, starts in March. That's when Mapu Khalil happens. That's when Rameza Ozturk happens. So the grant is happening sort of at the tail end of the Biden administration, early February. And then when the administration really gets its reins in all these agencies and starts to do this kind of crazy shit is in March. It's perfectly in line with all the crazy shit that they're doing. And it just, the strongest inference based on all the evidence. The fact that they're asking about that in the global entry, they don't provide another rationale in there. And so what are we meant to believe?
What do you mean they don't provide a rationale? They don't provide a rationale ever. When have you ever provided a rationale for why you're questioned at any security step coming through from being out of the country? What? This never happens.
That's a DUI that's already clearly on the record? Or is it, a novel statement made about Rick Scott?
Or for being, or for having your GE revoked, they also don't give particular statements about that. Security related stuff is just never going to give you specifics on stuff like this. That's like security 101. Like
at a time when, or in addition to, that being flagged and all his other opinions on the Houthis and Hamas, at a time when the administration is already going through social medias of everyone else, people who are far less prominent than Hassan Piker. And they're already willing to withdraw global entry. And you're telling me here that the more likely scenario is the DUI. Did they ask him any questions about the DUI at the border? No.
No.
Paris's premier.
Okay.
No, but I also don't connect the detention at the border to his GE revocation.
Why?
I think because I think that
you think that they're unconnected?
I think the nature of that conversation. I think that if anybody had that conversation with that agent and given the answer that Hassan gave, they would have probably gone through the same.
So do you think the revocation? Do you think the revocation is unconnected to the stop? You really think that?
If I might need to see a transcript.
There's no, just to be clear, for the trillionth time, there is zero reason to assume that these two things were connected. And I understand if people don't have experience traveling internationally, but the questioning that Hassan got when he came through sounded super standard. This is like they're always going to ask you, they're going to feel like invasive questions, but they're waiting to see if you say something fucking retarded coming to the US to see if they have some reason to block you, if there's something stupid comes up. Like, all of them sounded pretty standard. Like, they're going to ask you, and if you start talking about your job, and your job is politics, then yeah, it's going to get political. That's going to come up. Like, yeah, that's...
Of what he said those questions were. My understanding was the questions was he showed up and he said, "What do you do?" I talk I'm a live streamer. I talk about shit.
Yep.
I talk about politics sometimes. Do you like Trump?
So he was in the global entry line, right?
Sure.
Maybe if you believe Trump. Hassan. We don't know if he was actually in the global entry line. Who knows?
And his global entry was revoked 2 months before.
Okay.
Do you think that the fact that he was stopped is unconnected to the revocation? I would expect them to stop someone who doesn't have global entry in the global entry line.
Yes, but they wouldn't pull you aside for questioning. They would just say, you're in the wrong line, go to the other line, you don't have global entry. That's what they would say. They would say, like, oh, come over here. Now we need to ask you a bunch of questions.
You're here telling me you think it's unconnected.
I think that anybody that did not have or had revoked GE that was in that line would have, and had given the answers that he gave, would have probably suffered the same amount of detention.
Okay, so do you think that the most likely situation is that the global entry, that revocation played a role, was connected to him being detained? Do you think that those things are connected?
I said only in the sense that it was revoked, not in the sense that like the purpose for the revocation was connected.
Okay, so you think that he
shouldn't even grant this, but I understand again it's international trouble. There's no reason to assume that
he was stopped in the global entry line because of the revocation. I think that's fair, right?
Yeah.
And that the questions they asked him when they stopped him in the global entry line for not having global entry are unconnected to the reason that he was denied global entry or revoked global entry.
According to my recollection, yeah, correct me if I'm wrong. They asked him what he does. He said, I'm a streamer. I do politics. Do you like Trump? No, I talk about Israel and shit. I feel like that was the line of questioning. It was not a, why are you here? Why do you hate Trump? why do you not support Israel? Right? Like I feel like the questions. I don't remember the question.
No,
being
I'm not
such
asking
that
what the question
was connected to it. Well, the questions are the only way that I can connect them possibly to.
Okay,
the revocation.
so then the questions seem like they are informative of the basis of the revocation, because you would expect, wouldn't you?
I don't think asking someone's occupation is connected to the revocation. If I'm wrong, I'm open to being wrong about what that line of question was. My recollection was they asked him what his job was. He said, "I'm a streamer."
Why would they ask him
said, what are you talking about?
Why would they ask him what his job is?
Oh my God! Seriously?
But because that's like one of the most basic profiling questions you can ask.
Yeah, what are they getting
That's
at?
one of the easiest.
What is the purpose of this question? What do you think the purpose of the question is?
It could be a million. You have no idea. The purpose of the questions, if you talk to cops or anything else, the purpose of the question is to see if you say some fucking retarded shit. And then it also lays down some basic facts to see if you contradict yourself later on. So if you say some shit like, what, what's your job? And you say some shit like, my job is that I'm a race car driver or whatever. It's like, oh, okay, your job's a race car driver. What'd you do? Oh, I went to France. Oh, how did that go? Where'd you go? It's like, oh, we traveled around a lot, but it was, oh, well, what was this like in Nice? He's like, oh, it was okay in Nice, but like really hard to find Ubers. We couldn't go anywhere. It's like, oh, why'd you need an Uber? It's like, oh, none of us can drive. And now you said some shit. It's like, wait a second, I thought you said you were a professional race car driver. What do you mean none of you can drive? You don't know how to drive? The reason why people think they can always outsmart the cops is because they think they just have to avoid a basic, don't admit guilt to a crime. But that's not where you get fucked up at in police interrogations. Where you get fucked up at is when you try to tell a lie and speak past it because the person remembers what you say because it's their fucking job. And once you've said a lie and then they, take you down the road a little bit more in your story, you're going to contradict yourself eventually. It's impossible unless you have fucking advanced manipulative training, unless you've spent hours training in the Mr. Girl Discord server manipulating women, okay? You will never, ever, ever survive an interrogation trying to tell elaborate lies about your past. So a simple question like, what's your job? Is going to give you, that's so much insight into a person's life, right? It's like sleeping and then working. These are the two things that you do more than anything else in the world. So of course they're going to ask you your job. I think I've gotten asked that question, and Melina and Lynn and every girl I've known, every person I've traveled with, every time I come back to the country, if we ever get pulled aside for questioning, what do you do for work? It's one of the first questions that comes up all the time.
To just see if he's got a job, see what he does, see what he's connected to, see if he's connected to anything.
Oh my God, I hate that he laughs here. It's a super valid question. Okay, Pisco doesn't know anything about visas or traveling into the United States. I'm sorry. I thought he said he did immigration law, so he either lied about that or he's being intentionally obtuse. One of the reasons why people will ask you about income is because how you get money, how you earn income, and the types of things that you're going to do in the United States are some of the most pertinent questions. So for instance, if I have a girlfriend or whatever who's coming from another country coming here, they will always ask about jobs and money and stuff, because if you start making it sound like you're a broke fuck and you have no money, well, if you're a girl, are you being sex trafficked? Did somebody pay you to come here for some type of stuff? Are you being, is somebody giving you drugs, or is there some other reason you're able to afford the travel? That's going to be a big thing they ask you. If you say you have no money, you're coming to the country, oh, who are you going to go visit? And if you say something like, oh, a boyfriend, oh, so you're coming to the US, you have no money, and you're coming to visit a boyfriend? Are you staying here for longer than you're supposed to be? Do you have the right type of visa? Because I see you're on an ESTA visa waiver. That's not the appropriate visa. It's supposed to be for tourism. How do you have no job, no money, and you're here on a visa waiver for tourism, and you're actually coming to stay with a boyfriend? Are you planning on overstaying? Right? These are super basic questions that they're going to ask, and things having to do with how much money you make, and if you have money. These are incredibly basic questions that you're going to be asked if you're stopped at the border coming to the United States. I don't know why he would laugh at the implication that this is the thing they're trying to find out. These are super, super, super basic questions if you've ever traveled to the United States before and gotten pulled aside for questioning. But
the most basic profiling questions you can ask.
Yeah, what are they getting at?
One of the easiest.
What is the purpose of this question? What do you think the purpose of the question is?
Hassan is a citizen of here, retard. Why would this apply to him? Because if you don't have a job and you travel to another country and you're talking to weird people, because I think Hassan at this point had already said he was talking to some politicians or whatever, from Yemen, and then you say, oh, I have no job. Well, then the next question the guy's going to ask you is, oh, you don't work or anything? How did you afford to travel? Because now you're getting to, well, who paid for it, right? Because I can't even believe I have to... This is a mind rot. Pisco is right that this is a mind rot question, but it's rotted on the other side. You just you want to see a conspiracy so bad. It's like, no, these are super standard questions that you're going to ask to ascertain the nature of a person's travel. Well, if you don't have any money, you don't work a job. How did you even afford to travel internationally? That's a pretty, that's a pretty exceptional thing. Who paid for it? Why did they pay for it? What was their incentive to pay for it? These are super, super, super basic questions.
To just see if he's got a job, see what he does, see what he's connected to, see if he's connected to anything they need to know about. What if he was a farmer?
So you think that they stopped him?
What if he was a farmer?
I don't understand what the fuck. I don't understand the point of the question. Actually, I don't understand. That's why I ignored it.
Okay.
It seems like a
if
drunken
you went
thing
to a foreign country and you're a farmer, guess what? You might have walked into fields where they might have different plants, fertilizers, different bugs.
So
if you walk back, I've been to CBP.
So I think that was not the best way to go with that. But the money thing is important.
Offices. I've met CBP agents. I've been to CBP airports. Those are super important.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. Do you think that it's more likely that this guy went into the interview totally in the dark about who Hassan Piker is, Or do you think that he went into that interview with some knowledge? And do you think that he was actually genuinely wondering, like, maybe this guy's bringing over some like contaminated soil, maybe they're bringing in some produce?
I can't tell if it's bad faith or do you not do. I want to make a crim law joke. This is just like we've watched. Well, maybe JCS isn't the best example, I guess, because they do have some inclination there that the person's committed a crime. But like, this is just super standard. Like talking to an officer. Like, this is such a standard set of questions. It's not that they're looking for a particular thing. They're looking for you to fuck up and tell a lie, or they're looking for some inconsistency during the questioning. That's what they're looking for. They don't have to be looking for a particular thing. They just ask a bunch of questions and they see if you say something retarded. And then if you do, well, you're gonna ask them more questions, or they're gonna figure out where the inconsistency is.
Some kind of meat product that we should be worried about for the environment? Or do you think that the person who was asking Hassan these questions in the interrogation side, that they probably like looked once at his file?
Are you talking about the second attempt?
Like, the questionnaire is, okay, do you think they have an active file that is like cataloging Hassan's political opinions? Do you think that's the case? And they pulled him aside. Hassan Piker. That we need to pull him aside for extra question because we know that he's a Twitch streamer that has left-leaning political views. And it's only happened to him? Nobody else? What?
I'm about the first attempt right now. Because there was the first questioning and then he went somewhere else and he had questions there. Are you talking about the first or the second?
These might be questions you get asked in a fucking job interview. Like, Jesus.
Let's call it the second, the more intrusive questioning.
The second one, yeah, they probably pulled his file.
Okay.
No, we don't know that. Hassan was walking them through. What do you do for work? I do politics. Oh, like, what are you talking about? I talk about Donald Trump. Oh, what do you think about him? I think America deserved 9/11. Oh, well, what do you feel about anything else? I talk to the Houthis. Like, Jesus Christ. Like, Hassan is like giving and I don't even have to say that conspiratorially because Hassan literally walks through that. But Hassan even says outwardly, I wanted to push this as hard as I could just to see what would happen because I'm privileged. I wanted to push this as far as I could. Hassan even says it.
So the questions, therefore, you would think are probably highly informative to the nature of the revocation, right?
No! Yeah, someone needs to bring this up. When a police officer pulls you over and he says, where are you headed tonight? It's not because the police officer knows where you live and he's trying to stalk you on your way home. It's because the cop, if it's his beat or if it's an area that he's familiar with, he knows if you're going to give some bullshit answer and if you're up to some bullshit stuff, right? Like if you say, let's say you're going to a friend's house to buy drugs and the officer's like, oh, so where are you headed tonight? You're going to make some bullshit up because you're not going to tell him where you're going. Jesus, that's illegal as fuck. So you might make some shit up. Oh, I'm going to visit or whatever. Oh, where do they live? The cop isn't asking where they live because they're trying to remember the address to go and catalog it later. They're just saying if you have the fucking address in your head. And if you don't, well, it's going to start to look shady. Oh, you don't know where they live? Oh, well, how do you normally find them? Like, these are... I don't know how many times I've explained this. I don't know. You either believe me at this point or you don't. Whatever.
Just because he's seen his file?
Yeah, they didn't ask him like, hey, did you cross a field? Hey, are you carrying any contagious diseases? Hey, do you care for livestock?
No, they're never going to ask... What? This is the... Where is... Hold on. What? It's this. Wait, does he actually ask him?
You rookie? What you need, homie?
Crack. $20.
Crack?
Yeah.
Like,
smell like bacon in this motherfucker.
Is this what he thinks the average undercover person or any cop interrogator is gonna ask?
What you need, homie?
Crack. $20.
Crack?
Yeah.
Like, do you think somebody at the border is like, hey, just checking. So did you meet and talk to any terrorists that you illegally supplied with weaponry or financial instruments to buy weaponry while you're overseas? Like,
because you're just asking what do you do starts that process. That's how you do profiling. You start with the broad and then you narrow. What do you do? He's a streamer. Okay, what do you talk about, right? Okay, I talk about these things. Okay, what do you talk about? This is a very normal line of questions.
Why ask him about Rick Scott's questions? Just ask him about...
Because the Twitch bans came up.
Job for no reason?
It wasn't no reason, though. Wait, it was about his job, and it was about the fact that he got banned from Twitch. What'd you get banned from Twitch for?
This is a very normal line of questions.
Why ask him about Rick Scott's questions? Just ask him about job for no reason?
Wait, what do you mean?
Why are they asking him questions? You think that they're actually wondering if he's bringing in foreign contaminants? Why do you think they're asking questions, is my question.
I think that there's a multitude of reasons to ask him questions to see if he's a threat, if he is bringing in foreign contaminants, if he is potentially not who he says he is, to see if he maybe is a person that is here for an untoward purpose that doesn't have to do with national security reasons. Those are all things that they're very interested in knowing.
Yeah.
And him, and even the answer to,
I don't know why he's not. Yes, this is, so just be careful, okay? Because now Pisco's giving you like dog shit advice in dealing with the police, coming back into this country, dealing with any, like these are always super standard questions that are going to be asked of you all the time. This is standard operating procedure in every single law enforcement related thing you will ever engage with in literally your entire life. So I don't know how this is like so fucking surprising right now, but Jesus.
Of his questions often is actually not even the most important part. It's how he answers. It's how you react to these questions.
Yes.
And inform a lot of those things. This is very like, this is how profiling works. You're watching everything this person does. You don't just take in what they say. You see how they say it. You see if it's consistent internally. Things like that. So yeah,
they're fishing for random shit. They're fishing for
random
shit.
Yes.
Of course. Yes.
Okay.
100% they are.
They're fishing for random shit.
I agree with you there.
Well, I don't agree with that.
Well, okay, no, not random shit. They're fishing for specific shit.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like, they're not. It doesn't have to be targeted initially. They're just going to say what comes up that's inconsistent. It's not like targeted, like they're trying to figure out one particular thing. They're just like seeing what he'll say. Yeah, it could go anywhere. If Hassan would have said he was a fisherman, then they probably would have asked him, "Oh, what kind of fish do you like?"
What are they fishing for? And I think I know what they're fishing for. And you tell me what's more likely: they're totally in the dark fishing for random stuff, or they're fishing for more information for incriminating statements about his Rick Scott comments, or they're fishing for more incriminating stuff on the Houthis and the Hamas people. And
then why wouldn't they have dug in more there? If they were fishing for incriminating statements there, why wouldn't they have asked him more particularly, "Oh, how did you feel about the Rick Scott stuff? Would you ever try to kill Rick Scott? Do you think it would be okay if somebody killed Rick Scott?" Because there's a million different ways, especially when you get a retard like Hassan who loves to yap to the police. If you got a yapper and you want to arrest this dude, I'm sure, or at the very least detain him for some big 8-hour interrogation, I'm sure you could get Hassan to yap on some retarded shit because he sounded like he loved fucking yapping.
Potential arguments about material support. What do you think is more likely?
I think that all of them are. I think these are equally likely things that they're fishing for. That's
so it's equally likely that they're fishing for random stuff as opposed to directionally fishing for information about his statements of Rick Scott, information about his connections to the Houthis, information about connections to Hamas and his support for.
Like, why would they not just pull him aside and say, "We need to talk to you specifically about the Rick Scott stuff"? Why would they start broad and Hassan just happens to get them narrowly to the like?
For potential terrorism, which you think that all these are like
they're directionally asking questions to find out reasons why they would deny him entry.
He shouldn't even concede that directionally asking questions. Like, it is in a direction, but it's a very, very, very broad direction. Like,
it includes the Houthi stuff. And
deny entry? Who's talking about deny entry? He's a U.S. citizen. Deny entry? What the fuck are you talking about?
Well, you can be arrested or something, right?
I'm sorry. Detain him, perhaps.
Sure.
Well, actually, no. They could essentially, what they would do, they could deny him entry until they figure out what the fuck is going on.
Yeah.
And then they would charge him with potential crimes.
Yeah, with what?
What are you talking about?
Yeah.
If he intentionally is, if he's trafficking human beings,
yeah,
what is he a human trafficker? But would they detain him? Would they detain him if they found him to be a human trafficker?
Yeah, they could.
Okay, so there is some detainment that would happen here, possibly.
But that's the thing, right? What you're suggesting is that they're conducting this inquiry untethered to his previous opinion statements. That it's just totally random, like you would to any other person asking about his job and who he likes, what he supports, what he doesn't support, his conversations about the Houthis, the topics about Rick Scott. You think that they're just like in the air, blind, as opposed to, let's see if we can get some kind of material support thing here, or.
But they didn't try to get any material support, obviously, because they didn't get any, and they easily could have. Hassan probably said enough that most Republicans will even agree with him being detained for 10 hours. Like, imagine if Hassan gets detained for, 12 hours or detained for a day, and, the Trump admin, people asking questions, why did you guys detain him? And he says, Hassan Piker, somebody who's heavily affiliated with a foreign government, who identifies as culturally Muslim and said that America deserved 9/11, tweeted out a picture of a gun that was used to assassinate my good friend Shinzo Abe, and then said that if you want better healthcare in this country, Rick Scott deserved to die in an era where politicians are being shot and killed and where my own life has been attempted 2 times. Now say that like 50 times more retarded, and that's how Trump would sound, right? You don't think they could have found some pretextual bullshit reason to, like, keep in mind that in Pisco's world, the GE revocation, global entry was revoked for no good reason. He was stopped for no good reason, and all the questioning was for no good reason. All of it was a First Amendment violation. All of it was viewpoint discrimination. Everything this administration does is horrible and evil and terrible. Why the fuck, like, for a person like Hassan, you could get probably more than 50% of the country to agree that, oh yeah, this guy seems like he could be a security threat. But they didn't. He walked in 15 minutes. What? Like, none of this makes sense. This is the most, dies if you think about it for more than 2 seconds conspiracy ever given in the history of all of conspiracy kind.
Let's see if this is actually a true threat of Rick Scott, and we can inquire about whether he actually wants to hurt Rick Scott or any of his politicians. That's what that's what I mean. Yes, they're trying to ask about specific things that relate to things he said. Why is that so hard to believe? Why is that not the most obvious outcome at a time when the administration is broadly doing this to all sorts of people in all sorts of contexts?
Sorts of American citizens, or just one American citizen?
Well, yeah. Well, you said American citizens. They're doing it to law, big law firms. They're doing it to colleges, right? Based on what they.
All of that is public. They're saying all
Allow,
of it
they don't allow.
publicly.
They're doing it to U.S. citizens at least. Chris Krebs, that absolutely, whether it's a presidential
Publicly,
executive action,
publicly,
whether it's an
publicly.
executive action that's unreviewable or not, they're doing it to U.S. citizens
No one
there.
talks
They're
about
doing it to U.S. citizens in the context of, whether you're actually a contractor that works with a law firm. So yeah, they're doing viewpoint-based discrimination. They're going after they're targeting different broadcastings for talking about revoking their license based on things they said. Kamala Harris interview, that kind of shit. So
Publicly,
yes,
publicly,
they are broadly
publicly.
attacking the First Amendment rights of both non-citizens and citizens.
Look, I would say this. I think that you could say that there is a viewpoint discrimination motivation for their actions. I could say that, but I haven't seen anything here that would go so far as to show that in such a way that it would make it where Hassan's detainment is somehow illegal.
You think it's the most
Or
likely
make that
scenario?
basically-
You think it's the most likely scenario?
No.
That his was based off of viewpoint
That his
discrimination?
speech was influencing the investigation. That things he said was motivating what they were asking.
No. I don't think that is the most likely scenario. I
Even-
think that
even as a factual
without
thing, even-
No. He has, from what I've heard from Hassan himself, I've not heard anything from him that would make me feel like this is an unusual stop, that these questions are unusual to ask, especially considering.
Have you ever been asked whether you support the president?
I assume you mean by CBP agent at the airport. Because, no, most times they look at me.
That would be an inappropriate question, right? If it were asked.
For him? That would be an inappropriate question. Why the fuck would they ask him? Why would they ask Kafka that? He's a lawyer. It's not part of his job. Like, how would that even come up? There would be a strange path for him to get there. But I don't even know if that was specifically what they asked Hassan. They just asked him what he thought about Trump or something, right? Which again, considering as much as I as much as I hate to admit it, there were 2 assassination attempts against Donald Trump. It's not a crazy question to ask. That's not an insane question to ask. Also, again, I think they just ask if Pisco, or they asked if Hassan talks about Trump. They didn't say, I don't know if they said, do you like Trump? Hold on, I gotta make sure I have these exactly correct.
Paris's premier.
It might have come up after you brought it up. I want to make sure I always have these statements exactly correct.
Saying, okay, so when you talk about the news, do you talk about the war? And I was like, what do you mean by that? He's like, do you talk about Trump? And that was the first time where I was like, what the fuck is this question? Like, I literally straight up told him, I was like, why are you asking me this? Like, I was like, what does this have to do with anything? And it was interesting because the dude asked so many insane questions, none of which is illegal by the.
So the first question was, do you talk about Trump? It wasn't even like, do you hate Trump? Do you like Trump? That was the first question. Or that was it sounds like that was the first time they broached this topic. So.
Almost certainly.
No. I like, again, you're talking about questions when I'm not detained and there's no punishment for me not answering.
What does he say later
to
on?
do in situations like this, I just kept giving him answers. And there were definitely areas where I was very revealing about my position, knowing full well that they know exactly what they're looking for. I saw no reason to hold back on certain things. So I said, I don't like Trump. And I was like, what are you going to do? It's protected by the First Amendment. I don't like Trump. Yes. Right? Like, I was like, I'm not fond of him. I don't like him. He said he was going to end the wars. He hasn't ended the wars. What the fuck is up with that? You know? And the guy actually was very sympathetic. The agent was very sympathetic.
So like, okay, whatever. So no, it didn't seem like he was like, do you like the president of the United States? Sounds like Hassan just volunteered that information all on his own.
Right, that's the ultimate issue here, is that we do not know what would happen if he said, I'm not going to answer these questions, I want a lawyer present, any of these things. He could have said any of those things. We don't know what they would have done in those scenarios. If they had said, because you aren't answering, now this is going to happen, I might come closer to what you're saying, but...
Also, by the way, now I know that Hassan thinks that he is like some super Middle Eastern coded dude, and the guy was Iraqi, and he was like, oh, you know, I know that name. That's a fucking Sunni name, and I'm all cool or whatever. Chances are the officer could have been fucking Mexican, and Hassan's retarded enough that he probably wouldn't even know the difference. But the officer, when he says like, oh no, we got along really well, that's an interrogation tactic as well. Now, Hassan's probably too retarded to recognize it, but careful, if you're talking to a cop and it seems like he's getting buddy-buddy, it's because when you feel comfortable and safe around somebody, you're more likely to say some fucking retarded shit. So if you're saying some shit like, oh yeah, I'm gonna hang out with some friends, and cop's like, oh yeah, like that's cool. Cop's not gonna say like, even when they pull you over for alcohol, they're not gonna be like, well, sometimes they'll say it directly, but like a cop is less likely to say, you know, like, are you smoking some reefer tonight, kid? You know, and is more likely when you're like, oh, I'm gonna go hang out with some friends, like, oh, okay, that's cool, hang out with some friends or whatever. You guys gonna, you know, probably smoke a little bit and have some fun or whatever. Like a cop will say some shit like that, and you'll be like, yeah, you know, I might. He's like, get out of the car, sir. Fuck! When they're friendly with you, it's because they're getting you to open up more. And this dipshit opened up so much, but
they granted him the global entry in February. They denied it less than a month later. That time interval is awfully suspicious. Wouldn't you agree?
What do you mean suspicious?
I would agree that it is suspicious.
Okay.
Make inferences, but it does not
whoa.
rise
So now let's combine that, right? So the fact that it was revoked less than a month later indicates that there was something. Right? It's very unlikely that it's just some kind of spelling error. It's fairly unlikely that it's his DUI, right? It's very unlikely that it's other kind of ministerial issues, correct?
I think that it is. What was that? When you say that, you're saying it's more unlikely than the viewpoint, or you're saying it's unlikely?
Your prior is it would be unlikely for them. Why are they re-looking at someone they just granted less than a month later? Thank you for the wait. Before you answer that, there's a way that I really do appreciate Nina. You guys should follow Nina. Thank you so much. Month later, and that would make you like your prior about what's more likely, about the likelihood that it is merely a ministerial error quite low, right? Because if it was a ministerial error, some error with fundamental,
it probably wasn't an error like that.
Don't you think it's a low likelihood that revoking it less than a month later is based on some kind of that's the foundation quite low?
I think it is, but let me ask you this. Yes. One second. I'm asking you a question now.
Yeah.
Do you think is it possible that there was some application error? They didn't know about the DUI, something like that, some ministerial error.
It is possible.
He still got it. He got that approval in February.
Audit the audit. We love audit the audit. We agree. Just kidding. This is a cop simp channel here, so we hate your channel, okay? Because you're way too nice to unhinged citizens, and you bully cops too much. Audit the audit says there's a reason they're not required to tell you why they've stopped you. True. They get you on all sorts of shit that you don't know about.
And then he made his little Rick Scott outburst. And then someone said, I saw that. That's kind of fucking weird.
Yeah.
Didn't he just get GE? And they go, yeah. And then they go, can I see it? And they look at it and they go, there's a ministerial error in here. Oh, shit. Okay, well, let's revoke it. In that case, are you saying that, in your eyes, is viewpoint discrimination?
If the decision on whether to reassess an application is based on viewpoint discrimination, I would say that that's
I can't believe that you would say that that's viewpoint discrimination. That's wild. That's just... For expedited screening, that you're making comments about killing politicians, how could you ever expect that's not going to fuck your chances of... I'm not saying you'd be no-fly listed, or you're going to be arrested, but that might hurt your ability to be expedited for screening back into the United States on global entry? Like...
Viewpoint discriminatory situation, yes, I would say that. So I'll give you an example where you would also, right? If you said, that's a black guy that we just granted global entry to. Can you look at... I don't like that. Can you go look at his application? He's black.
Why would it matter if a person is black, though? I can't think of any reason, compelling or otherwise, why you would discriminate against somebody who's black. But if somebody said something about killing a politician, I mean, if we're not screening for stuff like that, for expedited entry, what the fuck are we screening for expedited entry for?
Find something. You would say that's also a problem, right?
Oh, no, you just changed it significantly. You said
find something. No. Can you relook at it? We're going to reopen this because he's black. You would say problem, right?
I would say there's a problem there.
Constitutional
far cry from
issue, right?
Yeah, I think there's a far cry from saying this person.
I'm just asking the question.
Alluded to the killing of a senator.
Well, no, but that's protected speech. So again, I'm going to give you a situation.
Just because something is protected speech doesn't mean it wouldn't be considered for viewpoint discrimination.
He's Jewish.
Right. So, like, for instance, I'm pretty sure I'm allowed to say as a U.S. citizen, right? So I don't remember when was Hassan's thing revoked, because the Houthis were designated as an FTO, foreign terrorist organization, on March 4th. I can say I support the Houthis as a U.S. citizen. I should be able to say that. I support the Houthis. Okay, see if I get arrested, right? I should be able to say that as a... no, I don't. Don't revoke my global entry. Sorry. I don't support the Houthis, but I really, truly don't, okay? I can say that, and it's my First Amendment right to say that, and they can't discriminate against me when it comes to accessing, like, fundamental rights-based things in the United States. But, like, if I were to be publicly supportive of the Houthis, and then my global entry expedited screening gets revoked... Well, sure. I mean, I guess. Okay, I get that. That makes sense, right? Now, if somebody came out and they said, I support some white nationalist terrorist group that's a designated terror group, and somebody else said, I support a Muslim terrorist group, and it was only the people that supported the Muslim-based terrorist groups that were getting their shit revoked, well, that I would have a problem with. That's not viewpoint neutral. But before, if you're just revoking people's shit based on their public declarations of support for FTOs, I mean, that seems like a content-based, which is totally fair, totally fine, right? People that declare their public support for terrorist organizations probably aren't going to get expedited passage through security.
Protected speech from a lawsuit. It's not protected speech from someone saying, well, that's kind of fucked up. Maybe we should look into this guy.
We'll talk about it. So, wait a second. He's Jewish. Put it down. He's Jewish. Go look at his application again. You say that's a problem, right? That's constitutionally.
It's legal, but do you think that it is a good thing that it happens? Yes, I do. Okay, I'm not going to pretend that it's not. For expedited screening into the United States, if you're getting an expedited security screening somewhere, then it's because you are going above and beyond to be a safe traveler and to be somebody who's explicitly never going to be a threat to any U.S. security bullshit or whatever. So yes, if you're publicly declaring that you support terrorism or some bullshit, and you get through and they're like, oh, you got to go through the normal security line, I'm not going to throw a hissy fit over that. That's fair.
Yes, almost certainly it would be.
Wait,
sure.
or what about this? Hey, that guy just running for mayor as a Democrat. Go check his global entry application. That would also be a problem, right? People discrimination, right?
Less than the Jewish one, but it still probably would be, yeah.
So you would.
Why would we vet politicians more than non-politicians?
No. Not based on him being a politician. Based on him being a Democrat in the hypothetical.
If it was just him being a Democrat, I would say yes.
Yeah,
political leaning.
So it is a constitutional moment. It is a moment where you can have constitutionally impermissible motivations on that moment. Yes, the rechecking by itself. Yes, correct.
Yes, but we're getting pretty. I don't even know how I can.
So
I don't know how. Well, to be fair though, I don't know when you're saying it's constitutionally impermissible. I don't even know how to like
whether
frame
it
that
can
within a constitutional impermissibility. Because like if someone does that, Pisco, let's say someone does that. What are we bringing? What constitutional right are we claiming is being violated such that person now is vulnerable?
Like, where's the email that Hassan got? Didn't they say explicitly in the email there are things there that are protected by the First Amendment that you could still have your global entry stuff revoked for? I think that was right in the global entry email.
First Amendment. So I'm sitting there saying, under my First Amendment rights, I'm a Jew, and that guy looked at my application twice, unlike other people, and that's wrong.
I'm not saying this is what I thought. So I'm not saying that that this was a judicially resolvable issue. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that it's judicially resolvable. I'm not saying any of that. But courts are not the only ones to determine whether something's constitutional or not. I'm not telling you there's a cause of action that I can identify right at the moment. We're not looking at the judicial remedy. What we're looking at is whether it's unconstitutional, whether you think it violates the Constitution. And you were very quick to say, yeah, unconstitutional. Otherwise, you would just grant me no, because deciding whether to check an application is just not available for like the Constitution doesn't apply to whether you're deciding to check an application again. But that just can't be right?
Well, sure. But whenever you're saying this is protected speech, right? That also is me saying, okay, well, wait, protected speech in what way? How are we? You're saying there's protected speech here. Okay, yes, there's protected speech to be a Democrat, but I think that it is a pretty remote thing for you to say that we are double checking this guy's file.
Like this says that it can be revoked for pending criminal charges. Can a pending criminal charge have you forfeit your First Amendment rights in the United States? No, I don't think so. For that aren't viewpoint neutral? Or an outstanding warrant in another country? Or if you were in violation of the law of another country, can you viewpoint discriminate? Like, no. Like a whole bunch of things that might cause your application to be rejected, or I imagine your GE to be revoked, are things that are maybe not even viewpoint neutral, or at least not content neutral.
Because he's a Democrat, and then that Democrat gets to go, I have protected speech of being a Democrat.
I'm not saying
so you can't do that.
I'm not. I was very careful.
Ethically? Is this just an ethical moral question?
No. I was very careful there. I said that the constitutional violation is separate from whether there's a judicial remedy or whether a case will be successful. You agree with that, don't you?
Yes.
Okay.
But if that's the case, then I don't know what distinction we're making.
No. So it could be the case that something is unconstitutional, but a court can't remedy it, or you can't present a cause of action because none exists. We're not talking about whether there's a judicial remedy. We're talking about the inherent constitutionality of it. I'm not just saying randomly, ethically, morally. I'm saying constitutionally, but I'm not going so far as to say that I know of a cognizable cause of action. Okay. So let's not bring up, well, what would you do if that happened? Would you be able to remedy it? Let's just put that off to the side. It doesn't matter because I'm not alleging that. Okay.
Okay.
So you would be able to grant, right? If there were a policy that says double check the applications after 1 month of every Jewish person. If that were a policy, that would be unconstitutional. Fair in your mind?
Yes, of course. A policy saying that. Yes.
If there were a policy that said, check same thing with speech, right? Not necessarily religion. You would grant the same thing for anyone who is like pro-Palestinian. If there were a speech that said after 1 month, check the applications again of anyone who's pro-Palestinian, you would say unconstitutional. Fair?
If there was anybody pro-Palestinian, if there was a policy saying that, yes.
Now, what if there was an individual who said, for my people, I'm going to check, not policy, just one individual, one CBP officer says, after 1 month of everyone who I grant global entry for black people.
What about for a foreign terrorist organization?
I'm going to check them again. Unconstitutional?
Is that a... Oh, 1 second. You're saying...
Okay, I can't. This is fucking agonizing. How long did that conversation go on for? This is so dumb. Don't drag me back into this. This is such a stupid, especially when Hassan is like admitted to lying about so many of the details, or he's like obviously lying about so many of the details about this. This is like so stupid. I don't know how you would ever, you're dying on a hill where there's absolutely zero evidence at all. There's literally no evidence to this whatsoever. Airplane, highway, roller coaster, bridge, velvet crown, NFL player, circus, whirlwind, drive, hot tub nozzle, filling, black, veneer, soap opera, and peaks. Things that go in your like dental work or whatever, ortho work, dental additions. Things Things that spin stuff around. A roller coaster, a hot tub nozzle, a whirlwind. Can highways spin around? A drive black airplane spin around? The things that make things dizzy? I don't know. No, fuck. This is so dumb, and it's not going to be correct, and it's going to say one off. Oh, it's not even one off. Fuck me. Okay, forget all that. Okay, things that entertain us. A circus, an NFL player, roller coaster, and a soap opera? Nope. Fuck! One away. Circus, soap opera, roller coaster. These are like TV shows or something stupid. I don't know what it is. Airplane, Drive, or movies? Is Black a movie? Highway a movie? Peaks? I don't know. Get me out of here. I don't care. Whirlwind, hot tub, not. This has to be like spinning shit around or something, right? Did I already do that? I already did this, but I was one off. Can make you dizzy. Can you get dizzy on the highway? Hot tubs don't make you dizzy. I don't remember. Things that transport you places. Fuck me. Metaphors for a dramatic and chaotic event. A soap opera, I guess. This is a roller coaster. This is a circus, kind of, sure. And a whirlwind, okay. I guess. I feel like these aren't used as much anymore, but all right. Second words in David Lynch titles. Mulan Drive, is that a David Lynch movie? Something Highway, Twin Peaks, something Red Velvet. I have no idea. I don't know. Mulalaland, isn't that a movie? What jet might refer to? An airplane, black, jet black, hot tub nozzle, and an NFL player like the Jets? Oh my God, kill me. Oh, Tevzemi un brivibani. Brivibai. This looks like some fucking Scandinavian shit. Tevzemi. That doesn't look Scandinavian though. Who are these fucking people? Jesus, it's the guy from Prometheus. Gift shop. Is that like EJKOR? Could it be? No. Oh my God, I forgot the flags. Which one is that Norway? Or is it... Oh, fuck the crosses. Norwegian. Swastika, okay, based. No, there's no way that they have statues up there. That's reserved for Southern Europe. Oh, fuck. I'm trying to think of which... Okay. Norway or the Netherlands or Denmark. What was the Denmark flag? This is not the Norway was like red and white on the inside, right? Was it? Bro, I don't know and I don't care. Don't know, don't care. Denmark. We're going with Denmark. We're going with Copenhagen, and we're going with modern. Good luck. Oh my god. Okay, nice guess there. Fuck, what? A Latvian folk music choir performing for marathon participants in the Freedom Monument of Riga. Okay. You know what? Way better than I thought. Denmark flag. Oh, fuck. Norway flag. Oh, Norway's way cooler. Wait, what flag is this stupid one? It wasn't this flag, no. What was the, No. Ice cream. England? Oh, what the fuck is this? Why do these losers have a flag? What about the Union Jack? Oh, because Union Jack is like combining all those stupid fucking flags. Oh. Oh. Well, that wouldn't help me anyway, so fuck me. Okay, you know what? We take those. Fuck Olympics, right? Who hosted them? I have no clue. Beijing in the year 19... Wait. Beijing, like, that sounds like a place that just has lots of Olympics going on, you know? Like, all the time. So why... Fuck. You know what? We take those. Oh, it was in Seoul. 3 South Korean athletes jointly light the Olympic cauldron at the opening ceremony of the 1980 Summer Games in Seoul. Okay, 83-36. Okay, okay, okay. Okay. Taranga. Is that, I'm thinking of Tanzania. Capstan rum. First in durality, Chateau Tanunda brandy. I don't know what the fuck. Oh, what's this? Is this some stupid fucking bridge I should know? Taranga. Is this like a Seattle place? It's not gonna be. Or a San Francisco place? It's not gonna be. Imagine if we just saw Taranga. It just popped up and we're like, oh my god, we got it. Balmoral Beach. This doesn't look, this shit I don't think looks American, does it? But these people, what is this stupid make of car? Oh, it might be some weird shit. Fuck. Balmoral Beach. Okay, hold on. Wait, what direction are these going? Oh, wait, it's on the left, is it? It's going that way, right? Maybe that's some fucking London bullshit. Hold on, hold on. Hold up, hold up, hold up. Hold up, hold up. A beach. Give me some words.
Please. Imagine just giving me like one thing. I'm not going to get anything. I'm not going to find it at all. Fuck me, fuck me, fuck me, fuck me, fuck me, fuck me. Fuck me. What a fucking waste of my life and time. Okay. We need to get a vibe. Okay, Balmoral Beach. Some stupid fucking bay. Is it around here? Mouth of the river bullshit. No. But, like up here maybe? Oh, the river... Is it Thames or Thames? People talk about this bullshit. Maybe it's like over in this area somewhere. Ah, fuck it. I don't know and I don't care. And then these stupid fucking cars means that we're back in like the 50s or something. Good luck. Fuck! Oh my god. Not too bad on the years. A remote view of the Sydney Harbour Bridge during the late 50s. Bro, Australia... Oh my god, and they're on the other side of the road? That's so dirty. Fuck. 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 Unreal. Good luck. Okay, we can get 40k if we get two huge Gorontalo. We need huge guesses. Oh my god. These people. What do we got? Okay. Oh. Okay. Okay. Wait, am I getting baited by that though? Like... No, I'm not getting baited by that. And all those cameras. 78. Oh my god. This is going to be a huge guess. It's going to be a huge one. I don't know any cities in this godforsaken. I shouldn't say godforsaken, I'm sorry. I just don't know any of them. Like, what city would you... I don't even know the capital. Manila? That sounds right. Let's... Okay, big guess. This is going to be a huge one for us, guys. This is going to be a huge one for us. Oh my god, it's going to be so good. Okay, it could have been worse. I only got 4K for that? 8 years off and in the same kind of area? Damn, they fucked me hard on the location for that. Fuck you. Wait, we weren't even in Indonesia. I was up in the Philippines. What the fuck? Why did we go all the way up there? Who lives in these island places? This is like the place on the map in an RPG where you say like, oh, a great, you know, meteor collided and blew all these islands up and now they live in separate fucking... Okay, that's okay. We got 33K easy. Oh, I've been here before. I know exactly where this is. Oh, Grodzka 4. Krakow. Isn't that like fucking Polish or some bullshit? Am I making that up? Krakow. Maybe? Why do I feel like I've... ForYou.com. Grodzka. Happy hour. Too much English. No, there's no way this is Poland. I don't know what the fuck these stupid fucking colors are.
I have no idea, bro. Just kidding. I know exactly where it is. I have been here before. This Krakow, Poland. Why do I even know that? I guess I saw it when I was in Warsaw, like a sign or something. Okay, based. Just kidding. I know everything. Okay, I'm gonna go for the big. I'm gonna go ahead and just throw down a big 5K on the location. I'm gonna throw down a big 5K on the location. Okay. We're looking for Grodska, the Grodska Street. Okay, very famous street in this place. What? Jewish Square? Dan? I'm never finding this fucking street. Do. Nope. Okay, don't care. City center. Where are the cell phones at? Oh, and a cell phone. 2019. Boom, boom, boom. Ugh, 2024. Fuck me. God, I got wrecked on the year for that so hard. Grodska, there it is. 33K? Okay. We take it. All right, we're gonna caption. If I get a 950 or higher, my next Weow will be a golden Weow, okay? Fuck this game. Other guys.